3 minutes per individual. Please remember to state your name for the record. And I asked anyone who wants to participate in citizens' input that you identify this body as a whole and not as an individual. So please come forward, whoever would like to.
All right, I wasn't really planning on coming today, but there was an issue that was brought up at the last meeting where one of the council members stated that over the last 10 years, it cost $6.5 million to remove the seeds from the Australian pines. And somehow we're going to save money. But what wasn't considered is the interest we're going to pay on that loan you're going to take out. And another thing is you have never given us a real good reason why you wanted this, and I think I discovered it. Now, Fort Myers, Thursday, I guess it was, opened Backyard Social, which is down by Alico Road and just east of 75 in an industrial, commercialized area. So there's nobody who's going to be put out with all the noise. I mean, you've got J.C. Park at the middle of hundreds of condominiums. It's a high-density residential area. There's no really good egress or getting out of there. You've got Beach Parkway, which is totally inadequate. But the one thing that Fort Myers, with their Backyard Social, and Naples with their Celebration Park, which is very, very, very successful, I think you got a lot of these ideas from those two venues, because they all have lawn games, they all have food trucks, they all tout a bar. One touts music, the one in Naples has boat access. But you're trying to cram something similar into a neighborhood, which is wrong. It's dead wrong. That's it.
Thank you.
Morning, Don Apking. Just want to make a few comments about Sands Park since we had our soft opening. Glad to see it's being utilized. Every day we see more people coming. The lot's full, which indicates a lot of the residents from out of the area are using the pickleball courts and tennis courts and other areas that we have. Also, glad to see that we've got the second part of the project going on now with the extension of irrigation and more trees being planted. And with that being said, some of the other residents down there said the more trees you can put in, the better it is for the older folks running around. Therefore, we don't have to have EMS on call if we walk the outside trail. But glad to see everything going on positive. There's some other questions that came up as to how we utilize the south open end of the park. Some of the comments have been more trees. Do we put in a small coffee shop so you can get a drink and watch the grandkids play on the playground? Some other ideas have come up, so just want to give kudos as we move forward with the park and see the utilization. I mean, basketball courts, everything, and with the weather cooling off and the snowbirds returning, I think we'll even see more utilization of the park. But I just want to give thanks to everybody for moving forward and looking forward for the ribbon cutting that we have coming up here shortly, and just enjoying the place with all the residents that need to. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to participate in citizens' input? Seeing none, citizens' input is now closed. Is there any council discussion on citizens' input? Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to remind the community and council that south open end of the field at Sands Park, we worked extensively over 6 to 9 months with an owl expert in the nation to find a way to design that portion of the park to enable and allow all the owls to stay there and actually be inviting to them. And one of the key elements of that is to not have trees in that interior element or any tall growing trees on the outer rim on the outside of that, because that would be a place for predatory falcons, ospreys, and eagles to hide and actually, come after our burrowing owls. So We've been working on continuing to add more trees at that park, but I just want to remind everybody that that south end has, we hired an owl expert, and it's meant to be open for a reason for the burrowing owls, to show how we can build parks and keep the owls in there at the same time.
Thank you. Councilmember Shepherd.
Yeah, I've had people in my district reach out and say how they really liked the park, how it turned out. But they were also saying of the possibility in the future of adding some kind of small building for have a coffee or a sandwich or a breakfast sandwich, maybe some tables with umbrellas for shade. A lot of them like bringing their grandchildren to the park, but somewhere to sit in the shade and just have a cup of coffee or a sandwich would be nice. So something to think about in the future. But the park's been having a lot of activity, and seems like everybody's happy with it. Thank you.
Councilmember Steinke.
Thank you. I just want to publicly thank Don for coming out and giving some constructive ideas, while at the same time acknowledging some of the good things that are done. So we appreciate you taking the time out to come and talk about things that you do appreciate that are being done. Thank you.
Any other council? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to item 4B is discussion. B1 is South Cape Downtown Parking Management Plan. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to turn this presentation over to Public Works Transportation to go over their presentation this morning.
Good morning, Laura Dodd, Public Works Transportation Planning. So what you have before you today is the South Cape Downtown Parking Management Plan. This is to address the existing conditions and planning context for your consideration. This is an informational item, and it does coincide with the strategic plan initiative to provide for economy, education, and workforce in the South Cape redevelopment. The schedule moving forward for this particular project is there is a community meeting scheduled tonight at the Public Works Operations Center. And then also it is tentatively scheduled for the November 7th CRA board, and other additional meetings are posted online on the Transportation Planning website. So with that, I'd like to introduce Wen Dang with Mobility Cohorts to provide the presentation.
Hi, good morning. Good morning. My name is Wen Dang, and we are the team that the city has selected to work with in working on through this project for the parking management study. Again, I'm a transportation engineer. I have my team with me, Kathleen Walter and Devin. They've been supporting us throughout the project. And of course, we have Lauren Rushing and Jonathan Paul with New Urban Concepts that's also working on the team. So we're going to go over a little bit of the scope of work and what this project entails. There's some things that we have to go through, especially the existing conditions analysis, and that's what we are presenting to you today. And then before we go out and we do a very thorough stakeholder engagement, we've issued a survey online already, and we received really good feedback that helps us with our issues analysis. And then, of course, you'll see some of the peer reviews that we have touched on today. And then lastly, before we make any long-term, short-term recommendations in policy projects and programs that will make the best fit for this region, and then again, some of the projects that could evolve out of this, and some of the short-term project could be wayfinding. It will be the best value for the study. Ultimately, our objectives is really focus on 4 key issues, starting with data collection. We visit the city many times. We spent several days here with the team, with residents, walking the streets and understanding and really enjoying all the activities that's in this area. And so we identified at high level some priority key issues that we can talk through. And then, of course, and again, our goal is to develop a strategic plan of recommendations that is in bite-sized pieces, short and long term, so that it will be manageable as the city continue to flourish. So we kicked off this project in early July. We've been working with staff and your key stakeholders and some residents within this area. Right now, we're at the public involvement phase. Before we go out, we'd like to give you a very high-level synopsis of our key issues analysis that we found out today. So what have we done so far? Essentially, we've done some data collection, which is both on desk review, a thorough analysis of your policies and program that's already in place, and then, of course, getting boots on the ground and doing parking counts, which is very exciting, and we can go through some of the assets that you have today. The survey that we received so far, it's over 170 surveys, and we've captured a really good interest from the public that there is a desire for us to make some modifications to the existing system itself. And then, of course, we held several focus group virtually and in person, and so we have that key information that can help us. So where are we at, and what did we find as we're out there counted over 7,300 parking stalls, and we did this 3 times. We did it during nighttime when it's very busy with all your restaurants and all the programming, your daytime, and of course on the weekend as well. And what we found is that the majority, 2/3 of your spaces, 74%, are on private property. So you have a quarter of it is public access. And of course, there's about 190 parking spaces that are private parking within your alleyway. And then the majority, 1/3 of your spaces, 29%, is unpaved. And how we determine how those spaces are used is really to observe and see how your residents are using that space, and especially among your most popular restaurants and bars. So we went, like I said, we did our desk analysis where we counted how many parking spaces out there. Then we go out there and we validate. We validated 3 times, nighttime, daytime, and on the weekend with our iPads, and it captured geographically exactly where all the parked cars are at. And as you can see that, especially during your daytime, you have a high utilization of assets there. That means that your grocery stores, your coffee shops, your restaurants, and your bars, and of course your offices are completely full during the day, and that is your highest capacity. Of course, we know that along the nighttime, there's among your most popular bars and restaurants that's where the value added is at. And then on the weekend, we were very lucky to participate in your green market that you have on the weekend, and we see that we were able to observe how people utilize the space and also where they were parking as they enter the space as well. With that information, and as we're conducting a site visit, you see that we also observe other mobility assets that's in your area. So what we think of as parking is not only for cars, but it's also for other devices and other options that you have within your city. As you can see, as we go through, some of the signage that you have could be improved, could be maybe even easier and more visible, maybe through wayfinding as key destinations. And from a user perspective, right, parking is always the first and last experience of any restaurants anywhere that you entered. So here are some survey results that we received. Of course, we know that the majority, because this is Florida, the majority of people do access this space by car. What's really interesting about that is that they're actually willing to walk up to 2 blocks to get to their destinations. So we know walkability is very important, and as we heard a little bit of the comment earlier about shading and making your sidewalk walkable, it's very important for those users as well. A third of your respondents really think of micromobility as something of the future. I know that the city is going through a multimodal master plan, so this is aligned with that vision. And then we know that some people have issues finding parking. And what we think of parking is every parking space has its uses, right? It's always, it's like real estate if you can compare it. The most popular parking spaces are always the ones that surrounds your most favorite places. So what we want to think about as policies that align with that is maybe we should consider additional 15-minute parking space, 30-minute parking space, so that we create turnover so that your businesses can benefit from the turnover and the availability of spaces. So that's what we, and again, a high level of findings from the survey that helps us into some of our key finding of this area. There's a lot of great things about South Cape, especially 47th Terrace, and we see that as your main entertainment district corridor, as like this is where the space that people want to be. It's the most popular. That is where the high concentration of your demand is. We also see that because parking is free and it's, some spaces are, there's no policy. It allows people to park and dwell all day. And that's, again, we want turnover in certain areas to help the business grow and to help people have a better user experience. And then, of course, we notice your dumpsters. Some of the things that we were discussing internally as among our group is, what if those dumpsters can turn into trash compactor? So you free up some of that space, and essentially those could be additional assets that's already in some of your most popular parking utilization itself. The alleyway, although it's disorderly, it is all private. The alleyway in, I guess our professional opinion is that it should stay clear and should serve as two-way access. And sometimes when you have disorderly parking back there, it blocks access and it becomes an issue for, your basic services like your garbage collection or any of those. And then, of course, we think about parking demand management is that some walking environment could be encouraged, and again, create a better user experience within the limited right-of-way that you have. So the challenge of all of this, all of our finding, is a balancing act, right? It's always a balance of these three goals: affordability, accessibility, and availability. Because parking is free, you have to balance available and accessible. You can only have two, not all three. So if there is a free parking space in front of your property, then it's incentivized somebody to dwell and park there all day. How we challenge that without creating to balance the utilization is we create a 15-minute loading zone, we create an hour loading zone, or even a 2 hours based on the type of uses that's adjacent to it. The other thing that I think that the city does very, very well is essentially shared parking among some of your lots. A lot of these uses, all these restaurants and bars and uses are shared. And I think that's really, really great because it's optimized, the maximize the utilization throughout the day. So when we looked at the city, we also looked at your neighbors and within the vicinity. And when we did our peer review, we intentionally looked for the best of some of the best ideas that come out of these cities. And so we looked at your neighbors in Fort Myers. We visit their parking garages. We parked on their street. And some of the things that they have in similarities of all three of these cities is they have beautiful streetscape, just like 47th Terrace is what you have here in South Cape. The other thing that they do have is very clear and proper signage. Sarasota has a really robust, nice parklet system where some of the on-street parking spaces are turned into outdoor dining. And again, by speaking to some of your constituents, that is one of the desire. If there's any additional programming that can extend and help some of the the utilization that they have internally to their space. Each one of these city, for example, the city of West Palm Beach, they have a shuttle service that circulate. It's on-demand, app-based, and then you can park once, go to your destination, whether if it's a parking space or a parking garage, and then you can reserve it. They'll come, they'll pick you up, and you can go to anywhere within your your downtown area. For this particular case, we've observed that you do have a little golf cart service that's already circulating. We also see Backstreet has a free ride home if you you participate in their programming at their bar, which is organically, it's already happening in South Cape. And of course, we see a lot of similarities, and it's by looking through our peer reviews, it helps us organize on our recommendations coming to here. So there are some best practices examples, and we take inspiration from not only locally here in South Cape, but we take inspiration from each one of these cities that we visit. Parking enforcement policy, we don't have any. There's some Uber and Lyft parking spaces. There are rideshare parking spaces, but I don't know if it's being enforced. So sometimes we see that as being underutilized or non-utilized or utilized by a different vehicle by itself. The other thing is, some of your curb policy could be transformed into adopting more flex space for outdoor dining, and I think that will help your businesses grow as, the weather is going to be really beautiful in the next month here, and so those programmings could help. We did look at some shared programming that you guys have already done really, really well here. But in addition to that, what we think is, what if we can think about some kind of a valet program that's already occurring that could help with some of your more popular events that's upcoming as a pilot. And this will help to really test out the ideas and the strategies. Like is it something that could be permanent, or is it something that is event-based only? So again, on screen right here, you'll see these are just best practices. Wayfinding is on top of our list. We truly encourage that when people know where they find their destination, it helps them take less turns, because as we know that this area is getting really popular. It's not just for the residents of Cape Coral, it's also the residents within this region itself. And so for someone who's unfamiliar, wayfinding is a really, really good way to brand, to create space, and then of course to generate like a better user experience from a parking perspective. And then, of course, lastly, our project goals is really to present this idea, go through an issues analysis, look at how we can best provide a framework that's going to be a best fit for South Cape itself, because we do feel that every block deserves its own special, unique policy. And by creating the flexibility within our recommendations, it allows staff and, of course, your city and your constituents to modify as we need. So the other thing is that our goal is to facilitate and help the development of this and support your entertainment district. This area is I have to say, it's the most exciting area for daytime. There's a lot of activities at your restaurants and your bars within this area, and I think that's something that you should be really, really proud of. So let's create a better user experience for those visitors and these residents. And then, of course, the bottom line of all of this is we want to create a strategy that people come and park once. Right? They park one time and they move around the district, whether they choose to walk or bike or use, let's say, a circulator or shuttle service. That is the goal, is to get them to have a better user experience and stay longer, and it helps the city grow. And then, of course, this is our presentation, but we invite everybody here to please attend the public meeting that's being held later today. We will have a activities and a workshop that we'd like to work with everybody, and we want to get to know our residents, really intimately and help us validate a lot of our findings. So I'm here to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you very much for presentation. Do we have any questions? Councilmember Steinke.
Thank you. Just a couple comments. I think it's a great idea that we get the facts beforehand. So the research that you've done, it certainly helps make better decisions. I heard a couple things. First, when I heard the parking turnover, if you will, and setting up 30-minute, 15-minute zones and whatnot. I mean, just one of the challenges that I would hope that we keep in mind. Bless you.
Thank you.
Is certainly we have seasonal residents. And the demand on those restaurants and whatnot, it's not just a day-night type of an issue. And so in your study, I see that you're doing days, nights, and weekends, but we certainly have seasonal concerns as well. And so Fort Myers has their 2-hour zip zone or whatever, and well, nothing aggravates me more than finally finding a parking space and then having to wait 40 minutes for a table at a restaurant, and then it takes you an hour and a half to eat, and you're worried about going out and having to move your car and whatnot. So I would hope that there's some way to look at this on a seasonal basis, as well as just day night as it relates to waits that are required from where you park. And then later on, you mentioned a strategy of just park once. Well, park once and only be able to park for 2 hours kind of conflicts. So obviously, those two would have to be married somehow to be able to employ, both strategies, unless, of course, we provide some type of a facility vertically where someone could park off the street, so to speak, and then spend their time visiting different restaurants, shops, and whatnot as we put the multi-use buildings, along 47th Terrace, along Cape Coral Parkway. We're certainly going to encourage more walkability and bring more people into that area. So, one of the things that I would support is some more vertical parking potential. I know the COVID 47th has that built into their plan, but if we were to do anything as a city as it related to increasing parking, I would certainly be in favor of doing something vertically to allow someone to park, not get in the way of people that need to get in and out of a store, then leave those spaces for those folks, and then have a place where the car could be parked and they could be downtown for 3, 4, 5 hours at a time.
Absolutely. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Councilmember Cummings.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. Have you guys considered looking at, I'm just thinking outside the box here, I've been to other cities, and like St. Augustine, for example, it was very nice because there's a lot of restaurants and bars, and it is hard to find parking, so they would have a trolley. And you would buy a wristband, and you jump on the trolley, and it would take you to certain stations, certain areas. I mean, have we ever considered or even looked into maybe putting trolleys downtown? I think that would benefit, especially during the season when the snowbirds are here.
Yeah, thank you. We're actually the team that's doing their, we did their mobility study. We also are working on their curb management study also for the city of St. Augustine. And one of the things that is an outcome of their mobility study is a circulator, which I touched on briefly earlier in reference of providing that shuttle service that you're referencing. And it will allow, again, and to speak to your point about park once, yes, it is a balancing act, whether if it's 15, 2-hour, 4-hour, all day, that is a balance. And then ultimately, you have to provide circulation for residents. If it's a choice of a trolley, we call it a circulator, giving it a flexible, term so that as a city, and then the residents can pick and choose. But right now, organically, you do have a golf cart service that's circulating them already. It's whether if it's going to be a city program or if it's you're allowing it to be a free market and do a licensing agreement with these operators. These are the details that we have to sort through, obviously, but I think that's a really great idea. Thank you.
Councilmember Hayden.
Just so I understand where you're going, you seem to be steering towards paid parking everywhere. even in the public lots like Club Square, like Big John's. Where maybe you do a QR code or something like you have in the Fort Myers lots. Is that kind of how you're presenting this?
It's not how we are recommending, because if you notice earlier in the survey, quite a bit of residents do not support paid parking, so it is not our, it's not ever going to be our short-term recommendations.
Okay.
For there to be management, that is something that other cities that we see within our peer review have considered. And so I understand it's controversial and it's complex also at the same time, but it's not, we're not steering it one way or the other. We're simply collected the facts that we found. Yeah.
Well, no, just all your pictures showed meters. So I was just trying to gauge exactly where you're going, but possibly looking at maybe, if you're on street parking, looking at maybe paid parking, or 2-hour parking that might be free, that's managed, that's enforced and all that, but keeping the public lots like Club Square or Big John's free.
Right.
But maybe a better usage of spaces if we can move the garbage containers and things like that around a little bit. I just wanted to make sure, because I did see the high number of people that don't want to pay for parking, and that's becomes about changing a culture in Fort Myers where it's all paid parking, except for the 2-hour slots. People are used to it, but it is about changing culture when you're going to time management, when you're going to possibly metered parking somewhere or anywhere. But obviously with the public lots, there's a lot of businesses that back up to those lots, and that would require some changes, you know, like Aubuchon and places like that. So I just wanted to make sure as we were going through this presentation that you weren't steering towards any kind of recommendation that would be paid parking everywhere downtown. Yes, if you go vertical with parking garages, that's a different conversation, but at least for the open air lots, just trying to manage parking spaces, maybe increasing parking spaces in those areas a little bit better.
Thank you. Yes, by all means, we are not steering it one way or the other. We present the facts, and then it's a choice of the city and, of course, you guys as a committee to give us advice and guidance. And as you said earlier, as you see that we understand that it's a highly controversial topic. It is not, and we are transparent. We know that the majority of people do not prefer paid parking, and it's not something that we are we're going to omit from our report.
I think the other thing that may surprise people is the number of parking spots, over 7,000, albeit, you know, a high percentage of them or majority of them are private spaces. Do you know, how does that compare with a city like Fort Myers or West Palm or Sarasota? Is that a high number of spaces? Is that about average?
More than 50% of the land within the South Cape area is dedicated to parking, so it is going to be a high space. You're going to see right now that it seems high, but as the city grow and change, evolve, redeveloped, then you're going to have to think about additional parking infrastructures, whether it's a private public development that you're considering, or creating policies to get people to when they're staying for a longer term, 4 to 6 hours, that they're on like the peripheral, while the most popular spaces will get turnover. But yes, that's exactly what every city goes through this change, and as the city is evolving, it's good for us to go through this process now, so that there's a playbook. So essentially, you have strategies to implement when things do change on your streets, or when things do change in the redevelopment realm.
Thank you.
Councilmember Long?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, look, we certainly got to be sensitive to people's willingness to pay for things, but at the end of the day, nobody really wants to pay for anything, right? I mean, I don't want to pay taxes, I don't want to pay to park, but in reality, if a government was run on nobody wanted to pay for anything, we wouldn't get very far. And so it's about, for me, finding a balance. So like Councilmember Steinke, for example, was saying, well, what about the free 2 hours? And then you got to rush back. Maybe some sort of hybrid where the first couple hours are free, and then there's some sort of incentive to get you moving, whether you want to pay for an additional amount of time to cover that overlay. Because again, at the end of it, it's incentivizing sort of this turnover, whether it's just 2 hours flat and you got to go out there and move it, or there's some sort of relief valve that allows you to continue to want to be able to move it so you don't pay the parking. In that light, before I get to my next point, these three, the peer review cities, so to speak, I'm imagining every one of them has paid parking.
I'm sorry.
The three cities that you've provided, every one of them has paid parking?
Yes.
I think I see it in each one of these pictures.
Yes, obviously, on streets, every one of these cities has metered. In some, for example, even in West Palm, which is the most dense out of this, there are free parking, but it's, one, it's not advertised. Two, it's in the peripheral lots. That is not your core downtown area, so it forced people to turn over. So it's the psychology of a parker, right? Everybody has a price where what's your temperature. So what West Palm and some of these cities have done is, like, on Sunday it's free. If there's a green market, maybe it's a small flat fee, or even what we saw in Sarasota was very interesting. They have valet service for the churches because the churches are popular. And so, of course, it's relative in as reference as free. It's also, and you're right, it's a balancing act out of all of this. A lot of the programming that we see in the parking garage that's available right now, especially in 3 of these cities, the first hour is free, or the first 30 minutes is free. So it encourages you to, if you are there to pick up your meal or pick up a cup of coffee, that it's incentivizes you to park there. There's all the things, and then after that, there's a charge. So, but it's using demand-based pricing to balance the usage.
That's the thing too, and I'm seeing that. I think Fort Myers has even kind of went in that direction with sort of like the equivalent of surge pricing for like Uber, so to speak. There's certain areas in certain districts where they've designated those parking as high priority, and the cost is higher. And in fact, they continue to kind of reach out. I just paid what was previously a free parking underneath the bridge to go to the park there. I just paid $5 to take my kids to the park. They just implemented that within the last couple months, I think. And so, yeah, there's data. It's all data-based, and so we appreciate you being here and providing this so that we can make informed decisions. Then my next question, and I don't know whether this is kind of in the same wheelhouse or not, is one of the problems that we also face, and this is more pedestrian-focused, but on the other end is our code, in my opinion and experience, is in some ways restrictive to commercial development, so to speak. So the parking standards particularly in that lot, are heightened to ways that prohibit certain uses. So typical parking calculations for a restaurant, for example, are 14 for every 1,000, or a bar 18 for every 1,000. And I don't know, we may have some reductions, but it's not in line with what we typically see. So in each one of these cities that you provided, they have overlay districts or reduction areas, and so you'll see like a 65% multiplier, 0% multiplier. Some of them have 0 parking requirements in the heaviest districts. Is there a precursor to those sort of things that you see where you would need, what do we need in order to implement that? Are those cities able to do that because they have X, Y, and Z, they have parking garages, they have?
Yes, and it's, I think there's 2 questions. One is code and how are cities managing their operations as far as their programming. From a code perspective, our team actually personally worked on a code that eliminate parking minimum and turning it into a parking maximum, and as an outcome for development, that there's 2-tier of maximum, because I know a lot of developers, especially if you're developing Class A office space or anything like that, they're going to require you to have a certain amount of parking spaces for you to require for financing. So what we've done is create like a tier process that if you exceed one and you're up to another, that there's a fee, a transportation fee that essentially goes into a circulator, like we call it the trolley operation funds, and then it offsets that demand. So that's one way to organize the code itself to offset that. The other thing, as far as like parking, as far as your parking management, there's a project that I worked on in Nora, and it's a redevelopment of a zone. It's about a 10 square mile, very similar in scope and size, mixed use, just as you see. There's existing residential, and on the outskirt, there's new buildings that's coming in, and adaptive reuse of all the restaurants and bar within that area. What they've done done is they actually create we created a TDM program for them, Transportation Demand Management. And of course, within that, there's projects and upgrades that they have to do for streetscape, wayfinding, and those details. But the way that they are choosing to do the programming is, one, to offset with valet, get people off the street so they don't circulate. Two, they also looked at employee parking, and I think it's really important to think about like our workforce and how, and so they have tier of employee, like the more the restaurant employees and the more service industry employees, they do not have any parking within that district. What they've done in lieu of is have those employees park at an outskirt parking lot and provide them with a shuttle service for them to go into work. So there's different ways that you can tackle it, and I think, again, from a strategy standpoint, we want to create a flexible policy that you can be adaptive when changes are coming.
Okay, so I guess just to really hammer down really quickly, the cities and the towns, Fort Myers Beach, Times Square pedestrian plazas multiplied by 0%. Are they just setting that and praying that the market is going to regulate itself, or how do we get there? I mean, Fort Myers has something very similar. Properties located in downtown and midtown core pedestrian sheds are exempt from parking requirements. I mean, do they just... Because to me, there's two sides, right? So there's pedestrian access. You want people to be able to go down there. You want them to circulate. But then on the other end, if we've got a 5,000 square foot building downtown and the parking calcs are 14 for every 1,000, you're not going to be able to provide, you know, all those spaces for that use. So that building now is exempt from being able to be used for certain uses that might be viable in that district. And you can provide variances and deviations and things like that, but these kind of just broad stroke, if you're down here, this is pedestrian shed, kind of fend for yourself.
Right, and how other cities have addressed it, and again, I can reference West Palm, how other cities have addressed it is that if you're not going to provide parking, because it's the code, you have to provide a TDM program to support it. It's an offset of your traffic and your circulation.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, for me, when I looked at the data, you know, one thing that was, that really popped out for me is when you take a look at the overall parking down there and then how much of it actually is private parking. You know, so when you see what's left over for public parking, we know there's a deficit. There's always been a deficit in parking in the downtown Cape area. We've been talking about parking garages down there for as long as I've been here, since 2017. So I think it's going to, it's not that, you know, it's it's going to be a need that we are going to have to provide probably some vertical parking at some point for that downtown area. You know, look how much it's grown over the last 3 years down there, and the more businesses that are coming in. Not to mention the Cove at 47th project, not to mention Bentley Square. Those types of projects are larger projects that are going to be bringing more of a demand for parking. Now, the Cove at 47 is providing some additional public parking, so that's maybe it'll take care of itself for that particular location. But you're going to see other businesses coming to the downtown Cape area. So I think at some point we're going to have that discussion of vertical parking to offset the deficit that we have there. We all know, as much as we don't like to pay for parking, like Councilmember Long had mentioned, I don't think, other than probably Tarpon Point, you know, most of the other vertical parking structures that I've ever went to in Fort Myers or throughout the state, that, you know, when I go to Tampa, Orlando, St. Pete, just about all those vertical parking structures, you have to pay, you know. And I would prefer to pay for free, but unfortunately, you have to pay for those structures, for those amenities in your city. So at some point, I believe that, especially for those structures, you're going to have some paid parking. Look at, you go to the beach at Sanibel, it'll cost you about $20, I think, to park there. You go down to Fort Myers to eat dinner, you got to pay for parking there. That's the reality. We know there's a deficit at the yacht club with parking. You know, that's why we've been discussing vertical parking there as well. So I think it's a reality. It's going to come. I think getting the data that you provided I kind of like Councilmember Steinke's ideal. Maybe we could take a look at this again in February during season. Because since we do have a off-season time period, pretty much is when this data was collected, it would be nice to kind of see the data during the peak season of our tourism here in the Cape. So that would be some, I think, some additional data that we could evaluate to make sure that, you know, we're planning accordingly. And I think it's very important to be able to plan for the future. This may not be something that will happen next year, but this will definitely be something that's going to need to occur within the next 5 to 10 years. So having a strategic plan in place, exactly how we're going to provide that parking in the downtown area that is growing exponentially, and hopefully it'll continue to grow. I think it's something that we're going to have those hard discussions. So thank you for the information.
All right, thank you so much for having us today.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Shepherd, he has a comment still. Councilmember Shepherd.
Yeah, after listening to all the conversation, I think we know where we're heading with the downtown growing and expanding. But I think there's a lot more parts to it. Like Council Member Keith Long mentioned, I think we need to take away all the restrictions for new businesses for supplying parking. We have to create the magnet for our vision, and if our vision is to create public parking with maybe a parking garage to help pay for that and get money flowing, we should start looking at the restrictions on new businesses coming in, not making them supply parking. Thank you.
Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I know you had said there was one item that popped out to you. The one that popped out to me was that half of the land area in our urban downtown area is already off-street surface parking. And yet, if you talk to our residents and our businesses, they say we have a parking problem. So how much land in the CRA needs to be parking? I mean, are we going to be approaching 75%, 80% parking lot to solve a problem? So I think that ties back to clearly we need to increase density and intensity of parking in vertical structures, because we're already over 50% of the land mass being parking, and everybody's saying there's a problem. So clearly we have to do better in that regard. That's the one that stuck out to me, and so we can begin to explore ways on how to set policies and programs in place that will accomplish that. Thank you.
Any other discussion on this topic? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the next one. And thank you for the presentation, and I appreciate everyone coming out this morning. Next item on the agenda is the quarterly grants management report. See Mr. Mason walking to the podium, so I guess he will be giving the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. I got to flip this thing around here to move this along. Let's see. Okay, thank you very much. Grants report for the fourth quarter. Let's see. Overall, we have pending awards of 6 for the fourth quarter, gives us 12 for the whole year. Some of those have already been awarded during the previous ones. As I go through this, I just want to remind everybody the $51 million 0% loan from the state is not a grant, so it's not included here. It's just a reminder, in case anybody was thinking maybe it should be here. Grants fourth quarter that we've applied for. We've applied for 15 federal grants. The majority of those grants are the HMGP grants. They all went out in August, early September. We also have some state grants and I think one other one. And I think one of the ones that were in the federal grants was also a couple of FEMA grants that, keep in mind, every project worksheet that we work on is basically a grant for the recovery of any of the funds that are associated with, say, any permanent work or any permanent repairs that we're doing on facilities. The grants awarded, we've had 3 state grants awarded and 1 other grant, and overall we have 96 active grants in the city, awarded $165.5 million and $86 million remaining to be drawn for the work that is being performed. Give you an idea, we have a little over 14 grants, active grants with the Development Services. The bulk of those are entitlement awards associated with either CDBG or the State Housing Initiative Partnership Program. Fire, several of these grants have been active for some time. We've just received the $9 million associated with the state legislative initiative, as well as the Emergency Operations Center, $1 million that came through from the state legislature during this past year. Police, probably one of the more active groups that we have out there with grants. We have a number of grants that we get awarded every single year. They start out usually in October. I think you just approved several of those at your most recent meeting. Parks and Recreation, a number of grants as well. TDC is the lion's share of the grants that we have with Parks and Recreation, but they're active and we're working them. Public Works, the majority of these grants are associated with the sidewalks, and we also have probably one of the more interesting ones that I've seen in some time is the USDA tree, the Investing in the Urban Reforestry Grant, $1 million. I've not seen one that large in ever. So kudos to Omar and putting through that grant and getting it awarded. Utilities has a number of grants outstanding, not least of which is the American Rescue Plan Act. We're actively working those projects. I think Lift Station 720 will be coming to you here soon. That will take up the remaining part of the American Rescue Plan Act funding associated with utilities. We also have a grant that has come through, $10 million for lift station generators. I think they're working on getting the design up and running for that and moving forward and getting some of those projects done. Federal grants, this is for us. This is the ones that we have outstanding for FEMA. We expect this to continue to grow now that we're in the process of completing the permanent work. And we have one through the City Manager's Office. This was recently awarded. It's a state grant, Florida Job Growth Grant for Victory Park. And I think we're working on the agreement associated with that with Victory Park in order to put the infrastructure in that particular area. In information technology, we have a couple of grants. These are from exempt agencies, so I'm not going to tell you what they are. But we do have 2 of them. They've been awarded and they've already been worked. And recently, I think, as a matter of fact, last week, we were just notified of an additional award that I think is important that we actually talk about today, insofar as it's not going to require the City Council to approve an agreement. But last year, as the City Council may recall, after the Hurricane Ian came through, they held a special legislative session, and as part of that legislative session, they approved a Senate Bill 4A. And included in that bill, not only was it included the portion of the allowing folks to request a reduction in their property taxes, but it also included an appropriation of $350 million through the Florida Department of Emergency Management. Now, as the City Council, and this $350 million was specifically for Hurricanes Ian and Nicole. So since that time, Florida Department of Emergency Management has been working this particular program in getting it to fruition, so it'll be available for municipalities or any government that was affected by Hurricane Ian or Nicole. As you'll recall, the city, when it comes to FEMA grants and it comes to these types of grants that we deal with recovery of funds for damages associated with a hurricane. FEMA usually will pick up 75%, the state picks up 12.5%, and we cover the remaining 12.5%. SB 4 became a waiver program. We were probably one of the first municipalities in the state to apply for it. However, there were some issues in the program that didn't allow us to actually sign the document. We resolved that last week. And so part of this is that this waiver program the state will actually pick up the 12.5% that the state would normally have picked up. So our estimate for our original estimated cost of any approved projects through FEMA was about $7.3 million. So now we're expecting the state will pick up the full 25% now, as opposed to the city picking up any of the costs associated with these approved projects. So we just thought that maybe we ought to tell you about it. So this is a good thing. But we got this resolved last week. There's still numerous municipalities out there that have not applied for this and don't know why, but certainly we are on the leading edge of this one, and to go along with the $51 million, I think we've done pretty good with this one. I don't think it's going to cost us anything with regard to approved worksheets, project worksheets through FEMA. Anything that's not approved, anything that's not going to be covered by FEMA, of course, that will be our cost, but these items will be picked up by the state. So I'm done. Anybody got any questions?
Yeah, that's good news to hear. Yeah, that's, I know it's going to save us a considerable amount of money, so I know probably your staff in your office was probably spearheading, that particular initiative, so thanks for
Absolutely, they
getting
did.
us across the line.
Yep, it was a great thing, and I appreciate you giving me the authority to sign on behalf of the city. Thank you.
Yep. Councilmember Steinke.
Yeah, thank you. Mark, that is great news about the waiver program. Happy to hear that. I don't know if I missed it in there, but I know that 6 months ago or so, there was kind of an announcement of a kind of a jump ball over a little over 400 million, 411 million for septic to sewer conversion, and a lot of it had to do with environments that were being damaged with folks that weren't taking care of their waste as well as we do, and that our potential to get that was kind of negatively affected because we already do a good job of that. Do you have any news on that, or did we qualify for any of that money? Where is that?
We've applied for 25 million. Notification is supposed to be before the end of the year.
Okay.
So that's what we're working on. It's a $25 million grant for that particular program.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you for the update. We'll move on to item B3, which is the
Thank you.
quarterly Parks Go-Bond report. I guess that'll be Mr. Klingon.
All right. Good morning.
Good morning.
Paul Klingon, Director of Capital Improvements. I'll give you the parks update. Here's a summary of the parks. 6 of the parks are open. 2 are in construction. 3 are in a bidding process. Tropicana was still waiting for Army Corps permits, and Yacht Club permitting, master plan, complete the design. Gator Trails. This will probably be the last update on Gator Trails. Is we are adding additional scope, replacing the trees and irrigation damaged by Hurricane Ian. That's happening now. We're adding some shade over the existing benches and equipment. And we did evaluate whether we needed additional trees and saw it, and we felt that this park, none was required. Cultural was chosen to be included in the 2023 Florida Recreation and Parks Association Annual Showcase. So that was pretty good that that particular park is getting that recognition. Cultural Park, we've installed the perimeter sidewalks, are completed, added 60 new trees, that's completed. Replacing the trees and irrigation damaged by Hurricane Ian, that's happening as we speak and probably into November. Adding some shade over the benches. The 3 medians are curbed. The landscaping for the 3 medians is in process. And we did take a look at this park and felt that hopefully with Omar, that any additional trees we could be added through future grants. Sands Park, that is a soft opening. We have a ribbon cutting in December. We did evaluate the trees, and we're in the process before ribbon cutting. We're trying to add additional palm trees with irrigation and sod at the entrance, and adding cypress trees with irrigation at the detention areas. So that ribbon cutting is in December. Joe Coviello, same thing, ribbon cutting in December. We took a look at that and adding sod at the park entrance. Yellow Fever Creek, that project is 50% complete. We're looking at completion in February. We did evaluate that particular park, and at this time we don't believe any additional trees and whatnot and sod is required. The contractor in Yellow Fever Creek is, we had some issues with that particular contract, which we had a meeting. He since has terminated his site contractor and hired a new superintendent. So we believe things are back on track at Yellow Fever Creek. Lake Kennedy Racket Center, that project is going very well. We'll evaluate additional tree sod once that project is more towards completion, and we kind of see what kind of landscaping is proposed. And that is 35% complete, so that one is going very well. Crystal Lake, we received 1 bid in September, and the base bid was $9 million, and the bid additives was $1.2, and that was for some exercise equipment and a playground with exercise for the kids. So CIP and procurement are reviewing that contractor's qualifications and their bid. Now, because there was 1 qualified bid through the procurement process, we are able to negotiate with them. So we have sat down with them to see if they could lower their price. Then we'd have to make a decision whether or not to rebid this if we can't get what we believe is a reasonable cost. Festival Park will be opening bids in November 15th. That base bid is 4 fields with a bid add up to 10 fields. So the hope there is we'll know the cost of Crystal Lake, and then we'll have these bids in, and certainly there'll be discussion with council because of the bid additives and whether to move forward with the bid additives, this adding the additional up to potentially 6 fields. We've got to wait to see what that cost is. Lake Mead Park, that is, all the permits are received. There's a possible P3 for a community center, a pool, an indoor recreation. So once some of those details are worked out and council wants to move forward with the P3, we can certainly then, hopefully in December, go out to bid with the the majority of the park, with the exception of that P3, if it happens, and we're trying to work out those details now. Tropicana, we've received our South Florida Water Management District permit. The exotic tree removal and Eagle Nest is completed. We are waiting on the Army Corps permit, and that still has been discussed. I just got an update yesterday that it's still someone trying to get assigned to review that. And the last we heard, there was potentially someone in New Mexico that may be reviewing that. And the point being is Army Corps is swamped with projects, and they don't have the manpower. And Yacht Club. So the Yacht Club, we are waiting on the Army Corps and DEP permit for the marine side. But the beach opening, we did receive yesterday the Army Corps approval to add the sand. So the plan there is to go ahead and try to get that open with everything for November 10th for Veterans Day. So we did get the approval to put the sand on the land side. The deconstruction and demo, Kimley Horn is preparing those plans, and hopefully within a couple weeks, we'll be out to bid on that. We got some of the details worked out. Then we'll be coming back on November 8th to that cow, and Kimley Horn will present the master plan, some concepts from the last retreat we had, and you had some ideas what you wanted to do, so they'll refine those, and they'll be presenting that on November 8th. Any questions?
Councilmember Shepherd.
Yeah, I have a question on Coviella Park. I dropped my children off at school this morning, and the area between the charter school and the park, it is the park property, I believe, past the school fence. It appears to be a road, but it's not a road. It's just a cleared area that goes from the front to the back of the park. It's completely flooded. I don't know if there was an incident with maybe a pipe breaking or something. It hasn't rained in a while, but there's a lot of standing water there. It doesn't appear to be a drainage area because it's all flat. So I was just curious, is that like just the natural setting, like that's the way it's going to be? Or is there some kind of water issue going on?
I'll work with Public Works and have that checked to see if there's some kind of drainage issue, if there's some kind of a problem with that, or whether that's the way it is.
I mean, maybe it's possibly sheet flow from the school. I mean, I have no idea. But, I mean, it's been flooded through part of the summer, but we haven't had rain in a while, so I was just curious.
You're talking at the entrance right to the right, or more towards?
Yeah, between the high school and the park.
Okay. It could be just naturally wet, but we'll check.
Okay, thank you.
You know, one thing that I think would be helpful for us anyway would be to have maybe a spreadsheet on all of our parks and what the anticipated cost was back in 2018, and either what the bids are coming in or the anticipated cost today. I think that will give us an idea of the inflation that we've incurred here since 2018, and maybe what those costs may be going forward.
Early on, we were providing it, and then it just became a source of people spinning it and using it into, not understanding that there's been increases in scope and changes required by regulatory agencies, and so it became this is a cost overrun, or this is there was no, so at some point, we were told, just stop providing it. So if you all would like that, we'll bring it back.
Yeah, and that's something that, maybe you can send us, just email us a breakdown of what that is. And, it's not that, the reality is things cost more today than they did 5 years ago. And just, I think that would be helpful for us to kind of be able to wrap our arms around it and say, okay, it was a $60 million GO bond. I think you almost have to take the yacht club out of the equation for now because that's a big unknown. But the other parks, and I realize that we've added some additional work on some of those parks. That's going to take the price up. But I think what I'm personally looking for is trying to, okay, this is probably going to cost us in the neighborhood of X. And how are we going to pay for X? I know we've set some money aside. Is that enough? Or, like I said, excluding the yacht club, if it's not enough, how much more? I saw that, I believe it was Crystal Lake, what was that, 10.2?
And there would,
Yep, so I don't know what that, initially, what that cost was. I'd like to just get a good idea and try to see where we're at.
Okay.
Yep, we'll send it over.
As far as some of the Army Corps engineering, just to let everyone here know, I guess about 4 weeks ago, I wrote, emailed Congressman Donald's office to try to get some assistance in these Army Corps engineer permits. And I'm still engaged in those conversations, trying to help that, you heard today that they're looking at New Mexico to try to get some of these permits. Look at the yacht club. We've a couple years, so I think we've been more than patient. But unfortunately, we need those to move forward. And I know a lot of people in the community are saying, look how long it's taken. Unfortunately, we have no control over the Army Corps engineer. I wish we did. We'd be done by now. But I just wanted you to know that I'm still pursuing other avenues to try to help facilitate that. One of them was the beach renourishment. So I was glad to hear yesterday that we got that particular permit. I just wanted everyone to know that, we are still working hard and diligently to get these state and federal permits issued so we can move forward. Councilmember Cosner.
Thank you, Mayor. Mike, just real quick, when you send us that information about all the parks, can you include the reasons for the overages?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Hayden.
Yeah, I'll continue with that theme. I think in the last quarterly report, it said these parks were under budget. I kind of expected to see that line today. I saw the contingency fees, but it seemed like we were progressing in a way that a lot of the parks that maybe we had overestimated what they were going to cost us. So I didn't know if that trend had continued, or if it was, or if we've learned now that in the past quarter that most of these parks weren't under budget, that we were over budget, including the contingency.
I'd like to answer that. When we had in the presentation under budget, that was based on the bid and the contingency available.
Okay.
It wasn't the original budget. We know those are over.
No, I know,
what
but
it
that's
was.
what I was wondering, if that trend had continued with all
Right,
of our parks.
so
if we got
far-
to finalization of,
So far, I can say all the parks are still within the contingency.
yeah. So, and it looks like if we had that crystal ball and looked ahead to finish all these parks except for maybe Festival Park, but does it look like Lake Mead might not finish until early 2025, based on the construction schedule. So we're at least out to 2025, looking at finishing the parks that were originally designated in the GO bond. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, that is.
Yeah.
At Lake Mead, the thing that we have going on right now is we have a very seriously interested party to build out our Phase 2 community center. So rather than rush to bid, which it was ready and could have been out to bid, we've held off on that because the size community center that they are looking at building on our site may require some small modifications in the utilities and or the site location. But we've now had 3 meetings with them, very positive. They've already began developing renderings and building programming to see how much space they would need and if it fits the existing footprint of what we have available for our community center. So it's an interesting concept, and it was enough for us to say, rather than just rush to put it out, let's make sure we get this right so that we can build the park and likely they build the community center and have a ribbon cutting at the same time.
Okay, thanks.
Councilmember Stanky.
Thank you. I know that in 18 and subsequent years up until now, we've had considerations around when we can do things at the parks, when we can, because of endangered species and whatnot, and having to move owls potentially, and gopher tortoises, and ospreys, and bald eagles. Well, and I just wanted to make sure the public knew and that we knew Just recently, due to increased regulations on use of pesticides and whatnot, the osprey population has grown to a point where we no longer have to wait a fledging season or move to pull permits and to actually engage in the work because there's an osprey nest. Bald eagle still, but osprey no. So that should help us if we've ever been hobbled timing-wise because of osprey fledging. We won't have to worry about that.
Councilmember Cummings?
Yeah, I want to first say thank you. I'm happy to see that there are 6 parks almost completed that are already open. I guess we have 2 that's at a soft opening, so I think that's a positive. So thank you for helping get that going. And I'm in agreement with the inflation. You know, we've had the pandemic, the rise of costs on so many things, and then the hurricane. So I think you're doing very well under the circumstances that we've been facing as a city. What I would like to ask the mayor, I believe if I heard you correct, did you state that we got the permit for the beach?
Well, the staff had advised us that the beach renourishment permit was issued yesterday, I think we found out.
Correct. What happens is when you, it goes through DEP and it goes to the Army Corps. The Army Corps has to make a determination and say there's no permit required, then it goes to the jurisdiction of DEP, or it becomes a minor or major permit. So they did write us a letter saying it does not need an Army Corps permit, but basically giving us approval to actually put the beach sand down upland, the upland sand.
So that's great news.
That's good news.
Oh, yeah.
That's great
Because
news.
the timing is good with trying to open for November 10th.
Good, that's, okay, thank you. Also, I want to ask too, so one of the parks that I'm really curious about, if you wouldn't mind explaining this, Yellow Fever Creek Park. I've had some people out there, they had asked me a little bit about it, so I'm kind of excited. Are you still looking at the direction, adding the campgrounds, overnight stay, camping? Would you mind just sharing a little bit more of what you're looking at doing? I believe there was going to be horse trails, is that correct? That was going to be in this as well, Mike? Because I know a lot of people are hearing this, but I would like to just like a confirmative of what the big vision is that we're going to bring to life for the people out there.
Do you want to answer?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so Yellow Fever Creek is a first of its kind in the city. We're going to have primitive camping sites. There's going to be 2 nodes that are available. No electric, just, you know, pads, a little fire pit, and a trash can. Outdoor restrooms and showers, you know, enclosed. There's going to be an environmental welcoming center that has kind of a like a ranger station to get, you know, firewood and, you know, bug spray and sunscreen. There's also a meeting room, public meeting room, and then as you look up to this picture, the kind of the top right, you see some cleared area. That's a Frisbee golf station, and then there are trails that link between our park and the county's park.
That's exciting. This will be the first in Cape Coral.
Yep.
Correct? So this is really awesome. Okay, well, thank you. I just want to give you some positive insight on my behalf, so thank you.
Thank you.
Real quickly, Mr. City Manager, on the camping aspect, is there going to be some type of regulation or a policy in place where campers can only stay for a certain length of time? And the reason that I asked that question, I'd hate to see this turn into like a tent city. So is there going to be some, you know, you can only stay there for 7 days, or is there going to be some type of regulations regarding that?
I haven't looked at the actual programming yet regarding the park, but I will get with the Parks Director. I know they've been looking at different parks that Lee County has and other communities to bring in the best management practices. So we'll get that put together, and we can do it on the next update. We can discuss kind of that programming.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, Mr. City Manager, on this topic?
Oh, yeah, I just want to do touch base on, Paul, if you can bring up the yacht club. Just a recent development, and kind of, just to let, I know I've updated you, Mr. Mayor, on this topic, but we're back up right there. So in the bottom left-hand corner of this picture, you'll see kind of a like a keyway that is next to the pier and kind of, and then, so it's like a jagged edge, and then it goes to the boathouse, which is kind of then like more of a semicircle. So it creates what we call as like a groin area. You can see that in the bottom left hand. So that area has, for over a decade, has been naturally accreting soil. So it's growing every year to basically fill in that kind of keyway. About 4 months ago, an Army Corps reviewer basically stopped the project, the review of the project, and said that they saw on the TV that the boathouse was reopening, and then the boathouse was basically creating soil and creating beach, you know, in the river. And so we then had to basically tell them, no, you're wrong. We had to get our surveyor involved, show them how over the last 2 decades, we have survey after survey showing that the area is naturally growing. They turned us over to the DEP. We ended up having a phone call with the DEP, and we explained the same thing to them, showed them the survey level detail. And at the end of the phone call, they said, well, we don't want you to do anything more than restore it to where it was before the hurricane. And I said to them on the phone, I said, well, if you would like us to do that, we're going to be adding more sand. And they said, oh, don't do that. Don't put any more fill in the water. So as of 2 weeks ago, the DEP let us know that they're going to be taking no action. They have confidence in our data. We worked with their surveyor. We now have a new line that does not look like that jagged edge. It's more rounded because now they've adjusted it to the mean high water line. So we've actually gained land, and the permit process is now restarting. This had nothing to do with the original permit that was sent in by us over 2 years ago. But it is something that the reviewer at this federal level raised themselves and halted the entire review of the rest of the project for that. And as a result, we got more land. So I just want you all in the community to know these are the things that we deal with. And so when the mayor asked, as he said 3 weeks ago, hey, we need help, why is this permit not moving? Their response to our mayor was, we're waiting on information from your city. And the information they were waiting on was that data that had nothing to do with the permit submittal and nothing to do with any of the improvements that we're doing. And it's a naturally occurring accretion process that's happening in the area. So I just want you to have an understanding, because we don't get an opportunity to discuss the back and forth and the level of details that they try to bring into the review process. But I'm fairly confident they could have reviewed our project as submitted, and we could have dealt with that completely outside of the permit. But yet it went through a 3 to 4 month delay, and we had, I don't know how many meetings with the DEP and the Army Corps, and my surveyor staff was out surveying probably 3 or 4 times. So is it realistic that we've been at this over 2 years? Unfortunately, yes. As Councilmember Hayden knows, we waited a year on some airlines to put bubbles in the water. And you look at the complexity of this project, and we're over 2 years. Unfortunately, but I just wanted to fill in just some information so you can see what happens during the review, and we're at their discretion. So that's all. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Hayden.
I'm not going to belabor this, but is it any kind of a warning signal that the project's now may go to a guy in New Mexico who isn't possibly familiar with our typography, with our elevations, with anything, and could this even lead, because now we're going to have another fresh set of eyes on possibly this project that this person may have never seen before, and the kind of delays that could lead to that, which I think makes it even more crucial now that Congressman Donalds and those conversations are elevated. And when you said that, I thought, well, here we go again. You know, we're getting passed off to somebody whose familiarization with Cape Coral probably isn't even close where it needs to be, which obviously could trigger further delays.
I mean, again, we don't have any discretion over their assignment of work. We're at their mercy. Our environmental consulting firm that is working on this park and our design engineers and architects believe that it's going to move forward now that we have it with somebody else. That's the other thing you deal with. When you have a project that takes 2+ years in permitting, these reviewers with the Army Corps are just like people that are in the Army. They have duty stations and then they move to a new duty station. So they may have, we could have had somebody that worked on this for 2 years and now they went to Alaska and now we have a new person. And so their management staff has to assign it to somebody that can move it forward. So
Can I add?
I've had it happen before and it's never resulted in not issuing the permit, if that helps.
Just for clarification, Tropicana project was transferred. I believe Yacht Club is still local.
Yeah, one last question I had regarding the yacht club, and I know, Mr. City Manager, you and I had this discussion. You know, the structure of the pier, as far as the concrete structures, appear to be in fairly good shape. Have we gotten a engineering firm to take a look and do a survey of the?
Yep, we just got word, we have with Kimley Horn, they're actually there hopefully today and this week with scuba divers inspecting the piles.
Okay.
And then they'll have structural engineers that will inspect the, above the water. And then give us a determination of the condition of that and what can be salvaged.
Right. So once you get that information, if you could forward that to council, I know that would be a good information for me. And the reason that I asked that question, I know in the initial design and discussion with the yacht club, we talked about one pier, we talked about 2 piers, we talked about this particular pier modifying and putting some fingers out for some boaters access. But I think one thing that we need to keep in mind, if this engineering survey comes back and they're in good sound condition, my understanding, you don't need a Army Corps permit if we're going to utilize the same, because it's upland or above the water. So as we just had a discussion, we had to wait, we're at 2 years and still waiting. So if there's any way that we could utilize the structure that's there and just put the wood structure back, even if it's only what was there before, then we can apply for the modifications if we want to put the fingers in later. At least we could, that would be the fastest way to at least get some type of pier there. So that's really what I'm looking at. Even though it may not be exactly what we want now, and we may modify it in the future, but that could be 2 years down the road. Let's try to get it, at least get a pier back there, if at all possible. So that's why I asked about the report.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, and I believe, I was confirming with Maureen that I believe we also, in our appropriations, are asking the state to assist us with the redecking of the pier in the appropriation process.
Right.
And as far as the beach goes, I know, so when I met with you all this week, we had not gotten word that the beach permit was in. In fact, I sent a response Monday on that. It just happened yesterday while we were meeting with Councilmember Steinke, and then we had the mayor. So you all knew some information I hadn't shared with council because we had already met with them. But we did receive the beach sand renourishment permit, so things look really good for November 10th.
That's great news. I'm sure our community will be glad to hear that as well. All right, any other questions on this topic? Seeing none, why don't we take a 10-minute break before we get into item number 4? We'll come back at 10:40. Yeah, I don't think your mic's working either, so if we could turn that mic on, please. There you go.
There we go. Waiting for the slide. Thank you. Okay, so you've seen the slide before, just a summary of what CIP does, and we're estimating the $250 million per year in projects. North One West is, we gave notice to proceed in June of 2023, and that's the total project is $250 million. Here's the utility contracts. There's the 6, and it gives you that range of, you can see the contracts go from $24 million to a high of $48 million. So we've just started that. I'm sure maybe you've seen some roads starting to be dug up. North One West also has a master pump station, 720. That estimated cost, actually we got the construction cost, the bid, $8.2 million. North One East, we're 95% complete with the design. So now the discussion is, we're very close to 100%, is the timing of when we go out to bid to coincide with, North One West and those contractors, and to see the optimal time to actually bid the east. North One East has a booster pump station and tanks, and at a cost of $20 million. North One East also has a master pump station, which we're estimating should be somewhere in the $9 million range. North 3 UEP, estimating that would be $300 million. We're currently negotiating with McKim & Creed, and the estimated fee for that, for design, permitting, bidding, is $14 million. The police training, we just started that project, about 10% complete. So you can see the aerial there and the size of the building compared to the concrete truck and the people there in the background. So that is a big facility. Fire training facility phase 1, that was noticed to proceed in July. We're about 5% complete on construction on that. Phase 1 has the 5-story burn tower, an admin building, draft station for the pump testing, and we're doing the stormwater for the entire site, anticipating phase 2. Fire station 13 is, as you can see, some of the block is up, and that construction is about 35% complete, so that's moving along nicely. The new fleet facility. So the new fleet facility, we're negotiating with Weston Sampson. Now, as part of this is the proposed concept they have for the North Government Complex, and you can see the bigger building of where the fleet facility will go, and then to the right is the proposed property management building, and that potentially will have to be relocated up here because that needs to be demoed if we expand the EOC. So I have another slide to explain that. But you can see this project with the fleet facility and the property management building, now with utilities up there, the North RO, and the police training facility in that vicinity, is the North Government Complex concept is finally happening. D&D boat ramp, that's ongoing. Again, that site will be permitted through Lee County. AECOM is proceeding with the 90% plans. The Oasis multi-purpose athletic field, that we had for design and permitting an $800,000 budget. We're currently negotiating with Avalon for the design and permitting. Sunsplash and Lake Kenny additional parking. So Kimley Horn has given us a estimated fee for that, which we're reviewing, and the estimated cost for the 450 spaces was approximately $3.2 million. But as part of this, we're also going to pave the 91 spots that's presently grass. So Kimley Horn has to come in and look into the entire site and get a permit modification to South Florida Water Management District. And the timing of this is talking with, through the city manager's office with Sunsplash. The wave pool is proposed to be open in March 1st of 2025, because they don't believe they'll make this season. So they like to be open a full season. So that's our schedule. Certainly should be able to beat that schedule to have the parking lot complete. Siena Vista Park Modular Restroom, that is complete. We're doing a punch list, so this will be coming off the update. We did get the Lee County Tourist Development Council grant of $406,000 for this. Facilities master plan is in process, and certainly with discussion of the new DSD facility, that will have to be integrated into the plan. We have the 140 bridge rehabilitation. We'll definitely be setting up a cow to explain more details of our plan to rehabilitate the bridges. Same thing with the weirs. Some of the weirs are actually being rehabilitated as we speak. Miscellaneous capital improvements, Burnstow Road, boat ramp sewer is completed. J.C. Park, that's something now that the concept is approved. CIP will manage the design, permit, bidding, and construction. Certainly with Connie still will be involved with that project. And we continue to provide technical support for the South Spread of Waterway Environmental Improvement and Sustainability Program. So now 2024 projects. The skate park building, we're currently negotiating with Burt Hill, Pollock, Craig Architect, and we got an additional $515,000 for the budget in 2024. So a total of $1.7 million to go towards that skate park. Fire Station 10, we received $1 million from the Florida Division of Emergency Management, and we have notice proceed is this month, and basically that we had the $1.13 million in design and permitting, so that's moving forward. All right, so this is the EOC edition. We're estimating the EOC could cost $30 to $35 million. We received the $9 million from the Florida Division of Emergency Management. That can be used for design and permitting. And you can see that as part of this project, the EOC will expand to the, what would be the northeast, where the property management building, the facilities building, where facilities is. So that's proposed to then be moved up to the North Government Complex as part of the bigger plan for that. Fire Training Facility Phase 2, that will include an airnasium, a burn building, reserve apparatus bays, site plan for Phase 2 and Phase 3, and right now we have budgeted the $530,000 for design and permitting. And we're preparing the RFP for that. Andalusia Boulevard, we're estimating $15 million in construction. We're currently negotiating with CW3 Engineering for that design and permitting. And Northeast 24th Avenue widening, we're looking at the alternatives of 3-lane versus 4-lane. Certainly the preference is to go 4-lane, but we're actually then looking at the LCEC power lines and how to deal with that. So that will be part of the design permitting of North 1 East, and certainly the actual cost will come out of the road impact fees. But as with Andalusia, the plan is for Andalusia Northeast 24th is to include everything, get traffic signals, curb and gutter, sidewalk, street lighting, beading, curbing, and landscaping. So when we do Andalusia Northeast 24th, it's done. Any questions?
Councilmember Steinke?
Thank you. Paul, the bridge rehabilitation program,
Yep.
I noticed in the FDOT allocations, they're just having public meetings for those where they've displayed how they're going to allocate funds. I know one of our bridges is included in the allocation that would come our way with those FDOT funds. Are we trying to include requests for additional dollars for them in future years to contribute towards our bridge rehabilitation program?
You're correct. We did get some potential funding for a couple of bridges, grant funding, and we are trying to put aside in the budget $1 million a year more for rehab. So most of the bridges will be some kind of rehab so they'll last longer. But certainly there are a couple bridges on the list that we can get some grant funding on to actually replace.
Okay. I'd request we ask for help with all of them. With from what I could see, there's one. So we've got 140 of them, and we've got one bridge that we're going to receive funding for. So maybe whatever it takes, and however many we can ask for. And I don't know whether it's required that we apply per bridge or that it's just applying for our program. But certainly, as they start looking at the 2024 allocation, I'd like to kind of be at the forefront for the help with the bridge program.
So actually, there's two bridges that are proposed for funding, and how that happens is they're inspected every 2 years, and certainly then DOT deems whether or not they're eligible for funding, and at that point. But the bridges are safe and they're inspected every 2 years, and these two bridges, just because of the type of bridge, they're recommending replacement, and we'll partially fund that.
Okay, thank you.
A couple questions I had. We'll start with D&D. Where are we with the discussions with Lee County, Mr. City Manager, on that particular project? I know it's possibly going to be a joint venture between the city and the county, and where are we at on that?
Yeah, I spoke with the county manager probably 3 weeks ago now, and let him know that the legal analysis our team came up with brought to light some issues that they needed to consider. He said he was going to get back with the county attorney and make sure that they were okay with us moving forward with just a standard interlocal agreement. That was at a lunch meeting about 3 weeks ago. I can follow back up with him this week and see if he's been able to have that discussion with the county attorney.
And Mr. Klingham, where were we as far, 60% complete on design, is that?
Yes, when D&D came to, we stopped work on it, we were about 60% complete. So we're going towards that 90% complete, and certainly there's that coordination with Lee County as far as what we can do.
Right. Now, when do you feel that the design and permitting expectation is to be completed for that project?
Well, with the permitting, it's always difficult.
Yeah, because there's some Army Corps engineer.
There's Army Corps in this, and, we know that can be anywhere from a year to
Right.
over 2 years. But certainly, we have, like Mike's saying, a lot of meetings set up with Lee County to make sure that we understand what can be done there and be as a smooth transition.
Okay, thanks for that update on that particular project. Oasis multipurpose athletic fields, the design and permitting, do we have an expectation on when that may be completed? And the reason that I ask that is, I know we've asked for we're going to be asking in our state appropriations for some funding for this project. So I know that's sometimes one of the criterias that they ask for is if the design has been completed.
Well,
Because this was in last year's budget, if I recall correctly.
it was the 800,000. So again, we're in final discussions and negotiations with Avalon. Our goal is to try to get it back to council for design and permitting fee before hiatus. Then with a project like this, it could be with permitting, 9 months to a year, and then certainly construction, a year.
Okay. Sunsplash, the question I had on that particular project, you had noted 450 spaces and then 91 in the grass area. Is that 450 including the 91 spaces?
No,
Or is
so-
that 450 plus 91?
450 plus 91, those are estimates. By the time you put the bulb outs and things, that may get reduced, but in that ballpark.
Okay. The bridge in the Weirs, I see it was 100% completed as far as the evaluation, so I'm not going to really go there, but that'll be some good information. I guess we'll have at a CAL meeting. We'll be able to see exactly where we are with that.
Yes.
Fire Station 10, as far as FY 2024, it appears that, of course, there's monies that was appropriated we can utilize for the design and permitting. Is this something that we are anticipating? Hopefully, we'll be able to add in our FY 25 budget, Mr. City Manager. Is that what the goal is?
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, can you repeat that?
The Fire Station 10, I see that we've, had some state appropriations for permitting and design, and we're in the process of doing that. Is it your anticipation that hopefully we'll have that completed? And I believe we may even be asking for some additional state appropriations for this facility. But is your goal to hopefully start construction in FY 25?
Yes. Yeah, have it in the budget for the actual construction.
Yes, for
Right.
FY 25.
So we're going to look to execute those agreements, get the money budgeted, and then when we're complete with the design, have that funded for construction.
Okay. That's all the questions I had. Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much, Paul. We'll move on to utilities.
Good morning. Jeff Pearson, Utilities Director. First project I'd like to speak about is the Fort Myers Reclaimed Water Transmission Main, also known as Caloosahatchee Connect. This project will be completed hopefully by mid-December. So we're going to be scheduling a ribbon cutting either in December or January. We want to make sure South Florida Water Management District reps can be there since they were so generous with all the grants that we were provided for this project. So it's going very well. The horizontal directional drill under the river went extremely well. There were no issues doing that. And right now we're just wrapping up some of the yard piping and the pressure tanks at the Everest Water Reclamation Facility. The next project is the Reservoir Pipeline and Pump Station. We have 100% design plans. We are currently negotiating with the owner to purchase that site. The next project is the CRA Sewer Master Pump Station 100 and Force Main. The Force Main part of this project will be completed in November. We are going to begin construction on the master pump station, also beginning in November, with a completion date of December of next year. The next project is the Palm Tree Water and Force Main improvements, the Force Main being part of the Master Pump Station 100 for the CRA wastewater improvements. We combined it with this project to save several $1 million in construction and also to not to have one contractor doing the work and only getting in and getting out one time. This project will be substantially complete next month. Next project is for the North RO plant supply wells. The engineering is underway. We still need to modify the water use permit, complete all the engineering design. With this phase, we're planning on doing 5 additional 1 million gallon per day raw water wells. Then we'll, of course, we'll need to bid the project and construct it. Hopefully we should, be completed in early 25 with those 5 additional wells. Next project is the Pine Island Road West Corridor Utilities Design. We are in negotiations currently with procurement and the selected engineering firm. And once we get that contract, we'll be bringing that before council for approval. And that's all I have for you today.
Councilmember Hayden.
Jeff, and it's great to hear about the Caloosahatchee Connect project, that it's gone seamlessly, and I'm assuming Fort Myers is their side of the river. They're about at the same stage that we are with the connection points.
Yes, sir. We've been beginning coordination meetings between our staff and their staff to make sure that we're going to be doing some tests before we, go fully online with that project. So we're already, meeting with them once or twice a week, and so we're ready in December to turn it on and start receiving that 6 to 12 million gallons a day of additional water.
We're looking at December to do that, because I think the schedule said starting meetings, but we're looking to start moving water through there in December.
Yes, sir.
Great.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that's good news. That was the same question I was going to ask, was how are we doing on the Fort Myers side? But it sounds like, because I remember months ago I'd heard they were running a little behind, but it sounds like they're pretty much par with us now.
Yes, sir. They're on the same track as we are for completion in December.
Okay. Can we go back to the slide on the reservoir again?
Sure.
When are we anticipating the pipeline to be completed?
If
We got the
everything.
design now.
Yep, we're done with design. So if we can get the property acquired by December of this year and bid it by the spring of next year, we could potentially be complete by the summer of 2025.
So what I'm gathering out of that, I know we have an agreement with the property owner at the present time.
Yes,
I
sir.
know you and I have toured this particular facility or location. Is there any reason why, because we do have that agreement with the property owner, is there a reason why we're not at least putting that project out to bid now to see where those costs are going to be, since the design is already completed?
Well, the Florida Department of Transportation is holding up our permit until we can demonstrate ownership or control of the property. Right now, our existing agreement, Mayor, expires in October of 2024, and that they won't accept that to give us the permit. So we wanted to err on the side of caution and make sure that we have all our permits in hand. But it's certainly something we could look into if
It sounds like
city
December.
manager.
You said possibly December, which isn't that far away. I mean, we're only talking, December will be here in a month. a little over a month, but, so I was just curious. You know, I didn't realize that our agreement was going to be expiring in October of next year, so.
Yes,
I
sir.
guess we have two choices, hopefully, if we can get an agreement to purchase the property. If not, then some type of a longer term as far as an agreement with the property owner to still utilize the reservoir. So I guess that's our two options.
Yes, sir.
All right, that's all the only questions I had. Councilmember Cummings.
Yes, is the Fort Myers water the same quality as our water that we're going to be connecting with?
Yes, Councilmember Cummings, they have to meet certain regulatory requirements for it to be considered public access reclaimed water. They have to meet a certain criteria for nutrient removal and high-level disinfection to get all of the, bacteria and stuff out of the water by putting chlorine in it. Right now, but even before we started this project, the City of Fort Myers South plant met high-level nutrient removal because they were putting it in the river, but they didn't meet high-level disinfection and filters. They didn't have any filters, so now their facility does meet that criteria, which is the same criteria that we're under the same regulatory guidelines.
Okay, that's great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Pearson, for the update.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We'll move on to the next item on the agenda is 4C, Public Works update.
Gotcha, thanks. Good morning, Mr. Mayor and Council. Damon Grant, Assistant Public Works Director, standing in for Persitis, who's on scheduled leave today, to provide the fourth quarter updates for Public Works for informational and discussion purposes. Made some notes on here, so I'm going to walk through as I go through the slides. Let's see. This one should look familiar to the council. This is the Sun Trail statewide connection that you've probably seen in CTAC several times. The map is simply the phases working from west to east. Phase 1, as you know, is completed. Phase 2, we have funding that's going to become available from FDOT 2024 with the construction set for 2025. And then Phase 3, as you recall, November 1st, council agenda was to approve, and it did get approved, the design for the Phase 3 design contract. Next slide or project is the road rehab program that's broken down between local road paving, major road spot paving, and pavement preservation. We have $2.9 million for 23. The resurfacing began in July. The major road paving is actually on the page says October. It's actually, in speaking with the project manager for the major road repaving, that's going to be November 1st. So we're still in the ballpark there. Number 3, the spot paving is construction to start winter 23-24, and then the actual pavement preservation, number 4, as you can see on your map at the south central area of Cape Coral, we've identified some areas to prolong the life of our pavement. Next project, Nicholas Parkway East. That project is complete, so you will not be receiving any additional updates after this meeting. Just to go back on that one, I didn't hit that, let's see. That was completed on 8/11/23. Obviously no liquidated damage under budget. The awarded amount was $6.8 million and the final spend was 6.5. Okay, so alley reconstruction and paving. This one's on schedule, on budget. This was being, the project, the contractor is AJAC Paving, and you can see that the contract completion date was May 23. It's been extended to December 31st, 23, and that work is underway. Median landscape program. This is something as part of the budget discussions came up. Rose Gardens was one. That project is on schedule. It's currently completed. It's in the one-year maintenance warranty phase. It came in under budget. The actual PO for P&T, the contractor, was $1 million, just over $1 million. Chiquita is under construction. It's actually in the final stages, basically the punch list phase, on schedule, under budget. That PO for P&T as well was $545,000. Embers Parkway, access management component, that's in design. That cost was for Johnson Engineering, $68,000, and again, landscape design to follow. The next one, Country Club, that PO is with Johnson Engineering, access management component in design, landscape design to follow winter of 2023. And we have some photos of the Rose Gardens that came out very nice, getting a lot of good feedback for Rose Garden Boulevard there. Additional Chiquita Boulevard, some photos. Again, that's in the punch-out phase, but you can see what the finished product is going to look like. Next up is the sidewalk program. And again, the Public Works staff was focusing on sidewalks within 2 miles walking distance from the schools. Those tasks were broken up between city crews and contract crews. The city crews are depicted on this map with the dotted lines, and you can see from that map that basically 100% of all the city crew work is complete. As you may recall, with the contract work, we had been following a delivery method, the design-build delivery method, and I think during the last SAC meeting, we received a very high $17 million price tag to about 8 miles worth of work. When we discussed that situation and why the price tag was so high for that work, it was brought to our attention. A lot of it was just the contractor and the risk involved with the design. So staff has moved to we're changing our approach on that. Instead of a design build approach, we're going to a design bid build. So for those contracted areas that you see in the all red under the contract sidewalks, we've broken that up into 2 phases. Nelson Road, or the 1.3 miles, is we just pulled somebody off the library for that because it was pretty straightforward work. We're currently in the design phase, 30% complete. And then the remainder of the sidewalks, which represents 7 miles, we are going through that new design bid build process, and we're in the design phase of that. So that will be ongoing, and work through that process. Okay, water quality project. This is the Palmetto Pines Golf Course irrigation. The latest update is South Florida Water Management District permit was approved. We're waiting for permitting from the city. Staff is working on the agreement between the city and Palmetto Pines related to the construction, maintenance responsibilities, and the infrastructure of ownership. So that's ongoing. Bimini Basin Mooring Field. This is a fairly new approach as well. The project was approved to be reconfigured from design build to design permit only. Currently, the design and permitting contract with Stantec is in the second phase round of review and negotiation, and the latest proposals for Stantec are currently under review. I think on 10/3, Stantec have responded to our scope of work, and then on 11/6, we're looking to respond back to Stantec for our rebuttal on those issues, if you will, for the scope of work. So again, ongoing. City Hall security upgrades. City staff has engaged with a design consultant that we're looking to utilize for further design and to ensure proper materials and specifications are used to formalize the bid package for this project. That would include potentially a vulnerability or security assessment of the City Hall and council chambers buildings. That scope, I don't get into too many details, but is underway and we're working on it. Stormwater operations projects, Hancock Bridge Parkway. This one was one where we had several different options that we were going to pursue that slowed us down a little bit, but we are currently working. We've got 60% design, received was on 8/11. Currently working with on the 90% design, and then we're looking to have the 100% design complete in December of this year. And then we would submit the bid package to procurement, hopefully to go out on 1/5. Next slide is our survey slide. Can't say enough good things about our survey group. As you know, they've been doing, as alluded to earlier, a lot of work with us on the yacht club, whether it's looking at beach and identifying the lines between the state and city property on the beach, or helping our stormwater folks with depths and what's under the water. We're putting our drone system to good use. We've had several conditional assessments that we utilize the drone for, as well as the CIP and Go Bonds group have been utilizing our survey and drones, so all good stuff. Next, again, the other one for the survey that's been taking up a lot of their time, as you may recall, the benchmark densification and tide gauge. Again, the benchmark is, our goal is to have every half mile, basically a formalized documented benchmark that the city or private sector can use. And that brings us to 24 upcoming public works projects. I brought the appropriate staff here. Any questions that you have on our upcoming list or any of the slides we've covered, if you want to go into more detail, then I can provide. Obviously, we have staff here that can best answer those questions as well. Okay. There's the balance. And any questions?
Councilmember Steinke.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great update. I just interested in our sidewalk program. All those things relegated to the city are 100% complete, and those contracted are still, if you will, problematic. Is it just that we don't have the resource with the volume of work to be done to turn those over to ourselves rather than contract them out, whether it's design bid build or design build, whichever way? It looks like if it's up to us, we get it done. If it's up to a contractor, they don't. So is it just a volume of work issue?
It is, and as you can see on that map that we had put up, the city work, as far as a scope of work, is much smaller. I think the other one was 7 or 8 miles. That would be stretching our group, I think, thin for the resources we have.
Okay. Well, and just from being somewhat in the business, I know that the cost of concrete is going up pretty quickly, and so. The longer these contractors wait to get us our bids, to get the work done, the higher the cost of that concrete's going to press. So whatever we can do to get them on the stick, we should.
Right. Absolutely, and I think that's why we, for the piece that was very straightforward, we pulled somebody directly off of the library just to get that contract portion done, and then the more complex work with Embers and those other areas, we tried to limit what we have to go through that formal process with. But I agreed that we're moving that the best way forward that we can, either with internal or the library, and then the balance is the only thing we're going to take through that slower formal process.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Hayden.
Mr. City Manager, the Palmetto Pine project, it's starting to get a little frustrating as I see that it may not even come before us until next April, which means construction won't start till probably several months after that. This thing's kind of been in the works for a year and a half, 2 years now. I'm glad we got the permit. My concern is we have a line in there about discussions with Palmetto Pine about construction of the pump house. Now, this is new to me because obviously this pump house is taking in water from outside the property, running it through the golf course, and having it exit outside the property. So are we really expecting Palmetto Pine to pay for the pump house?
I don't know if there's been any changes to the project since I left Public Works. I did let Persides know at my last meeting with them on this, if the engineer could not complete the work, then we need to move on from the engineer, cut the ties with them and have another engineer assume the work. We can't keep waiting on somebody else to deliver the project if they're not going to. But I don't know if, Damon, have you had any meetings with them on this?
No, I don't, but I have Hugo here if you want Hugo to step up. He's been involved with all those meetings.
So yeah, what we are trying to do is like the agreement with them is because we are going to construct the pump station and the pipe from the canal to the pump station. What they will do is like from that exit from the pump to the golf course is on them. So what we are trying to do is like an agreement in the maintenance of that, because we are doing the construction of the pump station and the pipe, but they are going to maintain it for perpetuity. So we are trying to do like an agreement so that way everything is.
I just want
set
to
up.
make sure with that clarification because it talked about working out an agreement with construction. And I just wanted to make sure we hadn't changed how we were looking at this particular project and where the new owner would assume responsibility after that. So
This is still the same.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So so just to close some gaps in this one, so the project is going to be completed. We're just working out the construction agreement, any easements, and then the long-term operations with the owner.
Correct.
Okay.
Is that all? Councilmember Cummings?
Yeah, thank you. So I was looking at all these projects, and I first of all want to say thank you for almost every one of them being under budget. Do you have the numbers of what we've saved for being under budget on these projects?
That wasn't part of the PowerPoint, but it's something we could provide to the council, and that's probably a great idea. We can get that over to administration for your review.
Yeah, I was looking at that. But I just want to say thank you. I think this is very, very important, so.
You're welcome.
Keeping our numbers under. That's all, thanks.
Thank you. Just real quickly for me, could we go back to the mooring field? And Councilmember Costin probably knows we started this discussion in February, probably the early part of 2018. And I know government works a little slower than the private sector, but here we're coming up on 5, 6 years. And I know that we put this project out originally as design, permit, and build. There was only, I believe, one bidder. I think it was Stantec. And so I'm guessing the reason that we're going back out to a design permit only is so we could go back out for bid to see if we get any other bidders. Is that the
I think there's a miscommunication here. I believe we're negotiating with Stantec. They're in negotiations to complete the design and the permitting.
Okay.
We're not going back out to another advertisement.
I'm talking about the build part. I thought originally we went out and I could be wrong, I thought originally we went out for design, permit, and build.
It wasn't. If you remember, I think it was at the January retreat, the amount of money that was just for the design and permitting, we needed to ask for like another 85,000 to complete so now they've been negotiating the work that's needed to get us to a point of getting a set of plans.
Okay,
So the council authorized that additional money, then at a later budget amendment, the money was added to the project, then negotiations began with Stantec, and they're on their second round of back and forth on the design and permitting work.
so once we come up with an agreement with them, how long is it going to take for the design to actually, and the permitting to occur? Again, I'm assuming Army Corps of Engineer permits. Like I said, we started this back in 2018. You know, we just broke ground of a $120 million Bidney Square project there, and this is, in my opinion, a need, not a want, because of, you know, some issues that we have there. So I'm just hoping that, you know, we can try to fast track this as much as we can with whatever controls that we do have to try to get this across the finish line. I leave here in, you know, a minimum of 3 years, so hopefully we can get this done by then.
Okay.
That's the only questions I had. Any other questions? All right, thank you very much for the update. Appreciate the information, and we will move on to item number 5, which looks to be the quarterly communications report. It's number, it goes from C to 5, so I'm assuming it's under the capital, the quarterly capital improvement reports. Ah, Christmas comes early. If you would have given us a donut too, I'd really been worried.
She's got candy Friday.
The Halloween cup, cute.
Well, thank you for your report. It was enlightening.
Any questions?
Good morning, City Council. My name is Melissa Mickey. I'm the Communications and Marketing Manager for the City of Cape Coral, and I'm here this morning to present to you the Q4 communications report for fiscal year 2023. In today's presentation, we're going to cover some major campaigns, events, projects, some measurables, and then, of course, the 311 call center. So for campaigns, our campaigns are primarily for marketing or educational purposes. Some of our larger scale campaigns we worked on during the Q4 are listed in the slide. So depending on the objective of the campaign, the duration of time that we have to communicate on the topic, and the frequency of the topic, our campaigns are almost always multifaceted. So that means that we will use social media channels, articles, and ads, well, I like to call them ads, in our On the Move publication, our monthly e-newsletter, our electronic billboards on Veterans and Cape Coral Parkway. We also sometimes use targeted email blasts. This is especially helpful when we're aiming to get a message to a specific industry. We also have our city web site and the web page. We have a pop-up there. And then also we use the city e-sign, our press releases, and of course participating in media stories. Paid advertising, we do sometimes use that. It can include a TV commercial that we create, Facebook boosts. We do have some bus bench advertising specifically for fertilizer restrictions. We also sometimes will use mailers such as postcards or flyers, and we also create posters and we do flyer distribution. And I don't want to go too fast. I know there's a lot of items listed. We can always go back to it if you have any questions. So moving on, we have events. We work with our special events team regularly and provide varying levels of support to the city events, such as Red, White, and Boom, the Purple Heart parking space dedication. This is just a list of the events that went on during the fourth quarter. At least one member of our staff are present at most events. I have several professional photographers on my team, so they will take photos, we'll post to social media, and also capture video that we use in the future. And we also work a booth at Bike Night where we interact with attendees, answer resident questions, and hand out information. And we also give away some city swag items. Not the Tervis tumblers that you have, but we do give away some nice city merchandise. And of course, you've seen the events where we play a larger role, and it's more visible, such as the tree lighting, groundbreakings, and ribbon cuttings. For fourth quarter, we had a lot of projects. In fact, there's too many to list. One of the projects was, as we continued to have groundbreakings and ribbon cuttings, and we were giving away the city merchandise that we created, we started to get residents who were really interested in purchasing merchandise, and the city manager wanted us to work on a way to help get that, sell it to the community. So my senior public information specialist, Caitlin Mullen, created the Halloween city logo that's on the Tervis tumblers that are in front of you now. And we've worked with Parks and Rec to actually, they already sell items at some of their facilities. So currently those particular cups are on sale at Pop's Cafe, and we're gonna work to expand to get them on sale at other locations as well. That size is $20. The larger cup that I have purchased for myself is $25. So you can go to Pop's Cafe and get them there. And we hope to have more. We're just gonna wait and see how popular they are. So the projects listed are not by any means all of the projects that we've worked on. Some highlights for the fourth quarter, aside from, of course, the merchandise we're selling, are that we have created and implemented standardized email signatures for all city employees. Examples of them are up on the slide. The city manager has approved the email signature templates created by our staff for all city departments, and with the help of IT, the rollout actually began in August. The Cape Coral Quest application was actually spearheaded by our marketing specialist, Sarah Newcomb, and it has been wildly popular with our residents. So we're currently the only city participating with the Visitors and Convention Bureau on this platform. I'm very proud of that. And so I want to talk to you just for a moment about the Quest app. It's actually going to wrap up this Quest will wrap up at the end of November, and we're starting a new one in December. And it is a lot of legwork for us. There's 30 locations that you can check into once you download the app. Once you get to the location, there's a little riddle that you have to solve. You find a code, you enter the code. After a certain number of check-ins, you get different prizes. And so Sarah worked with some businesses locally. Once you get 20 check-ins, there's a Westin drawing. You get 2 nights stay, one person will get that. And so there's currently 149 people who are entered into the drawing for the Westin, and we'll be announcing that in December. And then Sunsplash partnered with us. For every person who does all 30 check-ins, they've given them a season pass to Sunsplash. So far we've got 86 people who completed all 30 check-ins and have taken advantage of the Sunsplash season pass. So again, the first Cape Quest will end in November. One person will be selected to win the Westin drawing, and the next quest begins in December. The prizes will change. One of the prizes is actually a Tervis tumbler that just has a Cape Coral mural on it, which is downstairs in the lobby. That was very popular. And part of the residents who would do that wanted to be able to purchase more. So this is, again, selling the merchandise is one way to kind of help them. If they don't want to complete the task and just purchase the cup, they can do that too. So you probably are aware, but my team did play a large role in advertising and compiling the list of stakeholders who participated in the tour of the yacht club and provided their feedback to the city regarding what elements that they wanted us to consider preserving. And finally, another project that we were excited and proud to work on over the past quarter was the Resilience Rally, an idea that really came from our city manager. He wanted to have something where residents could come together, and the idea being that it was on September 29th, the day after the storm had passed, and something where we could come together and be able to give back to the community. So The concert was held in a central location at the German American Club. It was a free event, and what we really encouraged people to do was bring donations. So we had over 25 people show up, over 2,500 pounds of donations. A lot of that heavy lifting of scheduling and arranging the event, of course, was our special events team. We marketed the event on radio, social media, billboards, press releases, participating in local media interviews, the electronic signs that we have, and we even created a commercial that we promoted, and it aired for about 2 weeks prior to the event. Moving on to our measurables. In fiscal year 2023, our office sent around 293 press releases. It's actually, no, I think that's actually the specific number. I'm sorry, I was thinking about this month. With 61 of them being in Q4, we are the largest city in Southwest Florida, and our media partners are telling us that they have shifted a large focus onto Cape Coral because we house a majority of their viewers, listeners, readers. So whether they get the information from our press releases or our social media posts, the information from our office that we're pumping out frequently does turn into a media story. And I'm sure you see that when you're tuning into any of the local news. We are on there all the time. So we continue to grow our Facebook followers, currently at over 22,000. Instagram followers, we're steadily gaining them. We're now up to about 3,100, which is 1,000 more than fiscal year 22. Twitter followers were just under 7,000. And the Cape Coral app now has just under 6,000 downloads and has been steadily increasing. So we're excited about that too. Just to give you a quick update on our 311 call center, we did have an opening. We actually had it filled for a few months with a temporary employee. The posting of the open position closed on Friday, October 6th. We had 176 applicants, just finished up the interviews, so we hope to be extending an offer in the near future. Our hot topics for 311 over Q4 remain, of course, solid waste at the very top, with over 50% of the 311 calls or emails being about solid waste, primarily damaged or missing totes or missed pickups. Following that, but at a much less number, stormwater maintenance issues, specifically sinkhole and storm drain pipe issues, were popular, and then also transportation maintenance issues, primarily materials being dumped in the right-of-way and or vacant lot median bush obstructions. The 311 topic tracker is part of the backup material for today's presentation. The packet includes a list of calls citywide for the Q4 and I think also for the entire fiscal 2023 year, and then it's broken down by each specific district. We also included some examples of inquiries related to each topic, what they might be, just to give you an idea of what people are calling about in the 15 topics listed. And the information included in the packet can also be found on our website, and the instructions for how to access that is actually on the slide. And then finally, I just wanted to talk a little bit more about our 311 Cape Coral app. I spoke about the numbers briefly. We have over almost 6,000 downloads, but I just want to take a moment to let you know all of the things that you can do in the app. And of course, you may be aware, Council, but for our viewers or listeners at home, I want them to be aware as well. The 311 mobile app enables residents to report concerns and access official city information and services on their smartphones. The users can report issues to 311, including but not limited to code issues, algae blooms, lot mowing, traffic, street signs, potholes. In fact, in our recent Citizens Academy, one of the members piped up, said that they've been using the app for a while. They really love the app. They feel like it has a great ease of use, sang its praises, and love the fact that when there is an issue such as a pothole, they can pin the location, they can submit a picture, and then they also get a response saying that it's been received. And they prefer doing that than, calling in and having to speak to someone. It's a little easier. You can download the 311 app on Apple or Android by searching Cape Coral 311 in the app or Google Play Store. And that's it. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions for the communications update? Councilmember Steinke?
Not really a question, just a note that I think your department does a fabulous job with our ribbon cuttings, and any time that we're prepared to meet with the citizens throughout the city, whether it be our Sun Trail program or groundbreaking. You and your staff and our Public Works Department does such a fantastic job, and our Events Department does such a fantastic job to accentuate, all of the great things that are going on in the city. So thank you for your part that you play in that, and your department plays in that. I noticed that the website visits were declined some, but I've got to believe that those 6,000 downloads on the Cape Coral app has taken a lot of the pressure off of the website visits, with the ability to do all the things through the app that you used to have to go and be able to navigate. The website was certainly more, and is more onerous than the app. The app is very, very simple. I know I promote it with all the citizens. So the design of the app and the functionality of that app is outstanding, and I would highly encourage every one of our residents to have it on their phone. They can do so much on that, and the streamlined system that the if you will, the triage center that gets that information, that then sends it to the right department to handle that, rather than having to go through 3 or 4 different gates to get where it really needs to go. The app really does a great job of doing that. So thank you for creating that, promoting it. And I know Sharon Woodbury brings to the TDC every month our Quest app. That is met with wide eyes, and the popularity of it, and the way that people get to see the city, and it encourages movement through the city. All great programs. So thank you for that work.
Thank you so much, Councilmember. We really do love what we do. And I just regarding the number on the website views, I actually think that was only through Q3. I don't know that that's the updated number, so I'll make sure that I get that and update it, because I think there's actually more views than that.
Okay, thank you very much for the update.
Thank you so much, Council.
All right, move on to item 6, Quarterly Economic and Business Development Report.
Oh, you're fine. Looking for the cursor here. Okay. Okay, Mayor, Council, good morning. Sharon Woodbury, Economic and Business Development Manager for the city. And I'm going to just go over some updates for Q4 for fiscal year 2023. And first, I'd like to start off just by giving you an update on the organization and our staff. In order to meet the mission that you have before you, we are working to increase our staff, and I want to thank Council for that and the support that you've offered with the budget in that. So we've hired a second business retention recruitment specialist just last week, and we have posted a third position for the same position that closed October 20th, and so we have about 22 applicants for that position. We'll start interviewing for that. And I wanted to take this time to introduce our newest staff member, Claudia, so she can tell you a little bit about herself.
Thank you, Sharon. Sure. Oh, good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. My name is Claudia Miller. I am, as Sharon said, the newest member of the Economic Development team. I arrived here 2 weeks ago from California. I will be working on all the department initiatives with a special focus on new business attraction. Prior to that, I worked for the City of Fresno, California for 8 years. I was the marketing manager for the airport. I was responsible for the marketing strategy, the collateral development, branding, as well as the attraction of new air service. So I regularly met with the airlines, pitched Fresno, tried to convince them to provide better air, or additional air service to our region. So that was an ongoing thing, and sometimes it could take a couple years just to develop a new air service route. Prior to that, I worked for the Fresno Convention and Entertainment Center. I worked there 12 years. It was a city-owned property in Fresno, California, and it was a 5-venue complex. I oversaw the team that booked the venues. They were a convention center, a theater of performing arts, an arena, and a banquet hall. And frequently worked with many of our stakeholders, including the Convention and Visitors Bureau, to increase hotel room nights for the room tax. I worked with meeting planners, concert promoters to book the 5 venues. So we booked everything from concerts, sporting events, conventions, banquets, and any other kind of public event. Even though I've always gravitated towards business development and marketing, I actually have a degree in fine arts with a minor in art history from San Diego State University. So I always try to stay connected with the arts community. I think that's always a very important part of the heart of any community. So, new chapter. I'm here in Cape Coral. I love the city. I'm very excited to be here and happy to be a part of the team that is driving smart growth for our city. And I look forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia. We are really excited to have Claudia on our team and utilize the experience that she brings to the table as well. So I'm going to go over just a few key economic indicators that we usually review during the quarterly report. You'll see that the city of Cape Coral remains steady in the unemployment rate for the last 3 months. From the year-over-year rate for August 2022, we have ticked up just slightly. However, you'll see that we're on par with Florida statewide in terms of the unemployment rates. Looking at our vacancy rates, these numbers are still very low, and if you look at some of the other cities that we've looked at as a comparison for Southwest Florida, our numbers are lower in terms of vacancy than the cities we have here, just for some context. And when you look at the most populated Florida cities, the same, still very low compared to other cities within the state. So just to break down some of the markets and give you some takeaways for our office market, we're currently at 41,000 square feet of available space. We're looking to see 122,000 square feet come online. The vacancy rate has decreased 50 basis points. We're expecting this vacancy rate to remain at an all-time low based on the activity that we're seeing. The asking rent for office has increased close to 7% year over year. For retail, we have just under 10 million square feet of retail product. Our vacancy is still remaining low. When you look at the absorption rate, again, we are expecting that rate is going to remain very close to what we've been seeing. Much of the construction that we are seeing in the pipeline, they are all pre-leased. So we're not looking for this to really increase the availability for square footage and alter the vacancy rates much at this time. And for industrial market takeaways, we are down from a peak of 11.5% in terms of asking rent. The trend is predicted that we are going to see an increased rent of 4 to 6% looking forward, however. And for this past year, for 2023, the most significant project we saw was the U.S. Postal Service building of 150,000 square feet. So just to give you an update on some of our projects and permitting, we have highlighted the Shops at Del Mar, which is a new retail center that will be located, it says Southwest 10th Place, but it will be visible from Pine Island Road. We're expecting that groundbreaking to happen this last quarter, calendar year quarter of 2023, 18-month construction timeline. And Lake Shadrow Resort, they have given us a projected groundbreaking of the third quarter. This is a 48-unit short-term vacation rental. Council did approve an agreement to grant public access to that site back in September, so that was one of the challenges that they were working through to move forward. They are projecting an 18 to 24-month construction timeline. And just to give you an update on some of the projects we've seen in the past, as well as a new project, for those that we've recently looked at, just an update on where we are with completion. Both the Waters and the Club, as well as Oasis at Surfside. We're looking at first quarter 2024 for the Waters, spring of completion for the Club, and we're looking to see the Oasis expansion complete in third quarter 2024. Outback Steakhouse is a new project that we're just highlighting, and we are talking with the construction team, and right now they are looking for first quarter completion of 2024 for that project located on Skyline. And just to give you an overview of some of the projects we have in the pipeline for our incentive programs, for our building infrastructure grant program, we've got 3 applications. You'll see we've got some investment numbers for both, for all of our programs, $10.6 million for the big grant. We've got about over $1 million for projected investment for breaking barriers to business and enhanced value recapture grant. That's one application that you'll see coming before council soon for the Gilbane project. So you'll get further details on that, but we are working on putting together terms for that. And just an update for Bimini Square. We had our groundbreaking for this project last week. They have projected that this will be about a 2-month construction time frame. So we're looking for this to come online in fall of 2025. Obviously, lots of excitement associated with that in terms of the project itself, but also what we believe will contribute to continuing momentum in the South Cape. Additional project updates with Seven Islands. Just wanted to give you some updates on that. We are working with the City Attorney's Office. They are drafting a development agreement. We have a preliminary conceptual that the developer has provided. It is preliminary in that we are working through changes. It's gone through several evolutions up to this point. And we've had conversations about some further improvements that we'd like to see to become more closely aligned with the D1 concept that we provided to them. We are expecting that we'll have to come back before council with an amended purchase agreement, just so that we can be more specific with our timelines. The purchase agreement was pretty vague, and so we're looking for this new agreement to provide some more specific timelines to look at in progressing the project forward. For Academic Village, we are having monthly meetings. Just to step back, for Seven Islands, we were having monthly meetings for that as well, but we have accelerated that, and we're now going to 2 meetings a month. They've also expressed an interest in trying to meet weekly so that we can move that project along. Going to Academic Village, we're having monthly meetings. With that team, we just started that last month. The developer has begun to conduct its due diligence. That first due diligence period expires November 24th of this year. They do have 2 additional 30-day extensions, but they have had their different consultants on site and looking at environmental, geotech, and making sure that this is a site that they are comfortable with moving forward with, but we've gotten all indications so far that things are progressing as they should. So I wanted to also talk about another activity that we've taken on, EBDO Spotlight. Adriana has begun to spotlight different businesses that we have throughout the community. And some of those are based on national recognition days. We looked at World Mental Health Day. We also looked at National Adopt a Pet Day, and featuring different organizations and businesses that align with those particular days, but also just other businesses that we want to spotlight and let the community know about. It is a Facebook campaign where we provide links to the sites. We've gotten great response and comments on that, in that we do believe that it's helping share the word about some of our businesses. And this is something that we feel has been very helpful in part of what we're looking to do to work with our existing businesses and help to promote their efforts and helping them to also strengthen as well. We are continuing with our business and industry roundtable. In July, we met with the construction industry. August was the marine industry. And just last week, we had our workforce and education industry roundtable. Great participation across the board from different organizations that provide support services, as well as some of our educational institutions. We had FGCU, FSW, Cape Coral Technical College, all there at the table. One of the issues that we had picked up on with all of our industry roundtables is workforce. They are struggling with trying to get their workers for a number of reasons. And so this was very helpful for us to be able to share some thoughts and get a good understanding of what type of programs are out there so that we can provide further support to our businesses. And I just provided some data that we got as feedback from our Economic Development Strategic Plan. We did have a survey that ran about 30 days. We had approximately 1,800 participants, and so I'm not going to go through these unless there are any specific questions that you have, but just so that you have some idea of where the residents weighed in on some of the priorities that we will be looking at as we move forward with the plan. We have approximately 40 new businesses that we're welcoming to Cape Coral, and I will talk to you a little bit more about how we're doing that. Here is a list of those businesses. And with our activity updates, again, just recapping, we're working on the Economic Development Strategic Plan with DCG Core Plan. We did have that survey as one of our first items or tasks that were associated with this effort. We are working at task 1 and 2. The survey contributed to what we're seeing as the vision of what we want to focus on. Task 2 being some assessment, looking at data, looking at what our competing cities are, and moving forward with using those as components to advance the plan, which we're expecting to have wrapped up July of next year, so it's a 1-year work plan. Starting, going to number 2 with our New Business Navigator program. That's what I mentioned in terms of welcoming our new businesses. Adriana has been out and following through with some of our new businesses, just welcoming them to the city, letting them know what type of resources are available, communicating our office and the assistance that we provide, but also a step further, being able to help with some other consistencies that we see with new businesses and how they could use some assistance. So as they're working through the business tax receipt process, helping them with that and moving them to the final stages so that they can receive their occupancy permits, and the fire inspection that's associated with that, helping to be kind of that convener and helping them to get to that point and preparing them for when those inspections take place. We're continuing to engage with the Tourist Development Council and Horizon Council. I had the pleasure of attending our monthly TDC meetings, or we have some that are on the phone, but then every 3 months we will meet in person, giving updates of what's happening in the city. I think it's been very well received, and so we'll continue to do that. We have begun working with TDC on a collaboration for a cooperative marketing program. So we're looking to partner with them in some of the avenues that they use for marketing, using their buying strategy and buying power. So we're excited about that. We have a draft RFQ that I mentioned in my prior report for the 314 acres for Burnt Store Road that has been submitted to procurement. We are in the final stages of that. It's just being circulated with some of our departments for some additional input. We want to make sure that left hand is talking to the right hand and we're including all of the information that's relevant. And finally, we are continuing to participate with Resilient Lee. I'm on the Education and Workforce branch and helping to develop that particular aspect of the plan. And I'll open it up for any questions.
Thank you for the update and presentation, Councilmember Cummings.
Thank you. Are you guys still working on the business in the box?
Yes, so what we're looking to do is try to break those out into components. And so one of the items being that we want to compile resources and be able to talk to some of those businesses and helping them understand with what they are. We are accomplishing that with the New Biz Navigation Program, but we'll be adding additional components to that to bring all those tools in your business in a box.
Nice. Do you know what your timeline is on this?
So now that I have some staff, I think we can move things further with our marketing and being able to compile some of the resources so we have a physical document. It will continue to evolve. We are looking for some cooperation and talks to Small Business Development Center about partnering with them on some different training and seminars and things of that nature. So we are moving forward with it. I think there will always be more to do, but the next step would be that physical resource to provide.
Great, thank you so much.
Sure.
Any other questions? Nope. Thank you. Keep up the
you.
good work.
Thank you.
All right. We'll move on to item number 5, roundtable discussions. Council have any items for the roundtable discussion? Councilmember Steinke.
I do, thank you, Mayor. Just one, I just did a little follow-up on the situation we've had brought up during citizens' input regarding an applicant to special POPs not being able to get in for an extended time. The city's doing whatever they can to see that can happen, and we had a meeting scheduled to meet with Mrs. McCohen in regard to getting her son in the program. There was a confusion over the calendar, and so she didn't make that appointment, but we're scheduling another one, a continued effort to get that taken care of after it was brought to our attention. And I do have an issue that if anyone else on council has any energy around it, I would look for a second to finding a solution. And the way I can present the solution best is to think about going fishing with a big net, and you bring the fish on board and you find in that net you found something that you didn't want. And so anytime you go after an objective with a big net, you might catch something that you don't want to catch. I think we've caught something in a net that we've, the way we've addressed making sure that the public can access boat ramps and whatnot in our parks, and that was an elimination of an opportunity for the continued kayak eco tours out of Serna Vista Park. And I chatted with the city manager and city attorney about it during my one-on-one, and there seemed to be some potential solutions. I sit on the TDC council for the city, and one of the big things that they look at when they allocate money and whatnot is how are we funding and continuing to attract visitors and increasing tourism to the area. And certainly ecotourism is a component part of our city. And so if there were some way that we would not be eliminating that ability for kayak tours to operate out of Serena Vista Park, the city manager seems to feel that there might be some way to do that. And I would be seeking a second to give them the opportunity to bring us a couple solutions that we might be able to employ to continue that ecotourism that happens out of Serena Vista Park.
I'll be your second.
My first question, Mr. City Attorney, since this is a non-voting meeting, can we give a second, or is it just a consensus? Typically, we do these at council meetings.
It'd be a consensus. If there's enough of you, then we could certainly come back with something. I know that a couple of you are missing, but, you know, we've got 6.
Okay. All right. And Mr. City Manager, I heard him referencing you in this, so I'd like to hear from you on this particular topic.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to provide some clarity around the points that I discussed with Councilmember Steinke. So first, I let him know that in this manner, regardless of the net, staff was given directive to have any agreements that we had with commercial enterprises in the parks terminated by 12/31. And so that is the path that we are working towards. And in fact, we've made several points with the people that come from Gulf Coast Kayak to come in to let them know we're still on track. 12/31 is your end date to purchase your own piece of property, move to a new piece of property. But I did mention to Councilmember Steinke that we offer those services now in another park. And so if he thought it was important to look at, you know, we don't want to lose this type of ecotourism, I could work with staff to see if there's any other way to bring forward an opportunity to keep the service and the program in the location. But it would take, if the intent of the discussion, and I think it would be important for you all to have some discussion with Councilmember Steinke, is to leave that vendor in the park, then I would need at least 5 of you all to let me know, because we would be reversing course. So there is an important distinction there that I think you all should discuss, so I know the parameters by which I'm working with the council member. Thank you.
Yeah, I think for me, well, Mr. City Attorney.
And to provide a bit of clarification as to what the city manager said, if there is an intent for 5 of you to allow this vendor to operate in the park, it would require an ordinance amendment to address that and to legally permit it. As it stands right now, there's no commercial activity that's permitted. So there's a mechanism by way of which we can do that. I have the language if there is political will to do that, and we can in fact accomplish that if that is the will of the council.
You know, for me, I know we've had this discussion. We had this discussion a couple months ago about this. For me personally, it's a all or none. Either we're going to allow commercial businesses in our parks or we're not. Simple question. I don't care if you're selling jet skis or renting jet skis, if you're renting kayaks or whatever the case may be. For me personally, I can't sit here and pick and choose. Either we're going to allow it or we're not going to allow it. And that's my position on this. To me, that's the fairest way to approach this. You know, to put it in context, you're talking about a Matlacha business that doesn't have a business tax here in the city of Cape Coral. There's plenty of area in Matlacha they could probably do the same thing. So if we're going to take the position where we're not going to allow commercial businesses in the parks, to me it doesn't matter to me what they're providing. So that's my position on it. If we are going to go down a path and we're going to develop a policy, there's going to be a criteria that's set, there's an application process, what is allowed, what's not allowed. That's not what we did, or that's not the direction that council gave staff a few months ago. So, you know, I personally believe that probably the best avenue before we waste a lot of staff time and we waste the city attorney's office at our next committee of the whole meeting, why don't we put this as a topic of discussion?
Sure.
And then see what a majority of the council. I'd hate for you to work on something that we recently gave staff a direction. and it's all for naught. So why don't we just add it to the next committee of the whole, and as a collective body, we'll have that discussion and
That's
see where
fine.
the majority goes.
Yeah, and to be clear, my intent wasn't necessarily to carve one business out and say that one business should be allowed to continue to operate when all the other businesses have to shut down. My thought is that somehow, some way, since we're able to make that happen on the east coast of Cape Coral, the fact that it has been happening on the west coast of Cape Coral, that we look at some way to continue to allow that to be a capability on the west coast of Cape Coral, however we do it. And so the thought was to bring some ideas around how could we do that, and whether that be expanding the operations that we are currently using on the east coast and put it on the west coast, whether we do it ourselves, whether we contract it out, put it out for bid for a P3 to supply that amenity to our city as an attraction for ecotourism. Just somehow, some way, try to fill the gap that will occur on December 31st when that particular amenity is now gone. That was all. It was not a matter of I want to keep them and go against the ordinance, that we put in place. It was to how do we make this continue to happen somehow, some way. But if we all want to discuss it when everybody else is here, put it on the next cow, awesome.
I think that would be the best, and then we'll have that direction. If it's a majority of council that wants to entertain that, and 8 of us are all here, then to me, that would probably be the best moving forward. And then if you get that consensus, then you go work on, whatever direction that the collective body has.
Thank you for your support.
Yep. All right. Mr. City Manager, I saw your light on. You okay?
I'm good. We'll be prepared for the discussion, and I will work with the Parks Director to, in light of that, figuring out a way to see what we can have done at Eco Park in the east, brought over to the west. We'll have some brainstormed ideas for the next cow.
Well, I think what we need to do first is because I felt the reason that we were doing this is see if council has they want to entertain that possibility. I think the reason that we were putting it on the cow is so staff didn't waste a lot of time, the city attorney's office didn't waste a lot of time. Get a general direction from council first, and then we'll give Councilmember Sankey that second, or I'm sure Councilmember Cosden will give him that second again, if that's the direction of a majority of council. I wouldn't want you to do all that legwork in the next 2 weeks. That's why we're adding it to a cow.
We're saying the same thing. We're gonna brainstorm some ideas so that when it comes back, we have a good discussion. I'm not gonna do a bunch of work. I'm just gonna sit down with Parks and brainstorm some ideas.
Okay. All right. Any other roundtable discussion? Does city management have anything to bring up?
Not for roundtable, but I do have one announcement to make.
Okay. Well, why don't you go ahead and do that now?
Next Wednesday, November 1st at 3 p.m., the city of Cape Coral will be dedicating 2 parking spaces for veterans. They're going to be the 2 parking spaces right next to the Purple Heart space that we dedicated during Purple Heart Day, and it's going to be at 3 p.m. at City Hall before the meeting.
Okay, thank you. All right, seeing no other discussion, time and place of future meeting. We have a regular meeting of the Cape Coral City Council scheduled for Wednesday, November 1st, 2023, beginning at 4:30 p.m. here in council chambers. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting adjourned.